What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 82 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. After a long-awaited hiatus, we're back. We're finally back to talk about some NBA playoff basketball. There's a lot to talk about. I mean, two of the series have already ended. I believe it's two. We've got potential 3-1 comebacks on the horizon. There's a lot happening in NBA playoff basketball, and I want to toss it to Sean right away. Let's kick this thing off. What is your initial reaction to the NBA playoffs? Because I've got some stuff. I've got some stuff for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I think first off, what I want to get off my chest is that I think two of the laziest takes that you could have about the current state of basketball, whether it's college, high school, NBA, whatever, is that A, everybody has the same style, like offensively or whatever, and then two, that nobody plays defense anymore. Like, there's just so much other stuff that you can, like, bark up a tree about, like the new lottery system for the NBA. Should they get rid of back-to-back games to help prevent some injuries or some fatigue or whatever? You know, college going from 68 to 76 teams for the NCAA tournament, or them changing eligibility rules again, whatever. But the quality of the actual basketball being played right now is at an all-time high. I think just some of the defensive performances we've seen from individual players, individual teams, like Cavs, Raptors. I was watching a little bit of that fourth quarter film from Game 4, and, I mean, it was ridiculous. Like Jamal Sheck, Colin Murray Boyles, and Scotty Barnes, what they've done defensively. The Lakers against Houston defensively. Some of the chess matches that we've seen from these from teams. So I think, like, those two narratives are just so far. Rudy Gobert, I mean, in his just masterclass of a performance through the first 5 games of that series. So that's kind of where I want to start off at. Like, dude, those are just two incredibly just false statements. It just shows that you just don't watch the current product, which is fine. But, you know, I mean, like, those are just incorrect. Like, Yeah, just completely incorrect statements. So the basketball has just never been better.
Yeah, to kind of build off of your point, I completely agree that playoff basketball is just in a great place right now. And to build off of that, I think that we're seeing playoff basketball couldn't possibly be more different than regular season basketball right now. And that's been a thing for years, right? Like, defensive schemes tighten up. The effort, the energy level is just a lot higher. Benches start to thin out. We kind of see which players can translate and which players can't. But we're in an era right now where regular season basketball is so optimized, right? Like, everyone's enabled to handle the ball. Everyone's playing fast in the open floor. Everyone's got 4 or 5 shooters on the court. Everyone can get above the rim. You've got offensive rebounding teams. You've got teams forcing 18 turnovers a game. Like, there's just an optimized style of basketball right now that's built around, you know, the analytical approach and whatnot, just putting players in positions to succeed. And without the intentional game-to-game scheming, offensive talent and offensive strategy is at such a high level right now that in the regular season, you can just churn out these 120 offensive ratings or these extended stretches of we're just able to get our game off no matter what. And now we're seeing in these playoffs that certain players are just completely different from a value perspective from where they were at in the regular season. Like, guys who were probably going to make the All-NBA team or were on the All-Star team or pop up as the top 20 guys in a lot of adjusted plus minus metrics have just been either complete non-factors in the playoffs or even actively hurting their teams in their minutes because they're eating up possessions with a high usage rate and not doing anything with them. And I think the game-to-game scheming just it's really crazy to me. It's really crazy to me. It makes me question, right, everything I thought I knew about the regular season. And I'll be the first to stand on the fact that I was wrong about the Pistons. And maybe we should have seen this coming to some extent. Like the fact that they don't have a secondary ball handler on their entire roster outside of, like, sometimes Karis LeVert and sometimes Danish Jenkins. The fact that their spacing is just very questionable. But there's aspects of the game of their team that I expected to translate and just didn't. And I question, like I said, I don't know what to make of it. Like, for example, the Pistons have just not been able to force turnovers in this series against the Magic, which they were like the number 1 forced turnover team of all time this season, or like number 2 all time. Like, they were right there with OKC as this all-time great team that's going to force a ridiculous amount of turnovers. And Orlando's like, we're not going to make any risky passes. We're not going to try and dribble through traffic. We're going to set up on our empty side. We're going to let Paolo take whatever shots he wants to take because it is better to miss a shot than it is to turn the ball over, because then Detroit can't get out and run. And so it's like, yeah, let's just take away their turnovers. And instead of forcing 17, 18 turnovers a game, it's like 10 or 11. While they're the ones turning the ball over 20 times. And all of the other advantages that I thought they would have going into a series. We had an episode, I believe it might have been our last episode because it's been 2 weeks, where I said basically in NBA history, any team you put up against the Pistons, they're going to be bigger, more physical, and more athletic than you. And we have seen in the series against Orlando that Orlando has been the bigger, more physical, more athletic team. They've completely neutralized Jalen Duren. He's not even averaging a single double, I believe. What is he at, like 9 and 9 a game or something like that? He's been attacked defensively. He hasn't been able to get on the glass. He's just been thoroughly outplayed by Wendell Carter Jr. in this series. And going into it, I would have thought you were crazy if you said that. I thought Jalen Duren was going to be able to get his game off. And it's because of the intentional scheming. It's because of the way they're highlighting these players' weaknesses. And there's so much more than Duren that we're going to get into. But that's kind of my takeaway, right? The game is completely different. Just for reference, OKC, in their 4-game sweep against Phoenix, had a 128 offensive rating. So they are doing some insane heavy lifting to the league average because 128 offensive rating is absurdly high over a 4-game sample. Still, the playoff league average offensive rating is about 112. It was 116 in the regular season. And it can't be overstated how big of a dip 4 points of offensive rating is across the board. And it's like, a lot of these elite offenses, Denver was usually churning out a 128 offensive rating every season with Jokic on the court. In these playoffs, it's been closer to 110. Minnesota's offense, closer to 110. Detroit and Orlando are in like the 80s. They're basically playing in 2004. They're just the 2 worst half-court offenses in like playoff history right now. But no, to hammer my point home, what I'm trying to get at is we are seeing what's real from the regular season and what's fake. And I think the exercise of trying to predict in the future, like what's going to translate, is just so much tougher. Because we could have seen the half-court offensive issues with Detroit from a mile away. Could we have seen them getting neutralized on the glass? Could we have seen them not forcing any turnovers? I don't know. I don't really know. Like, what are your general thoughts on that? Like, do you think it's just a specific Orlando problem with Detroit, or do you think there's something going on with their regular season play that just prevents it from working in the playoffs in general?
I think sometimes we, even as like analysts, like content people, and this goes to like everybody's, like national media, like just regular content creators in general. Like, I definitely think there is a thing. It's like a vibe check for sure. And I think Orlando's vibe check was so bad, especially after getting just destroyed by Charlotte in that play-in, that I feel like I thought there were some, if the vibes were better.
They beat Charlotte. They lost to Philly.
Not Charlotte.
Was Philly. It Philly? Yeah, it was Philly.
Philly. My bad. Yeah. They destroyed Charlotte.
Yeah.
I got it flipped. Yeah. My bad. Thank you for telling me to be quiet there.
Charlotte was a team that we both kind of had playoff concerns about, and those turned out to be very true. Their offense became live or die by the three-point line, and they went cold at the worst possible moment. And that just is another point to playoff basketball is just completely different. This is a Charlotte team that was churning out 125 offensive ratings like they were in their sleep, just over and over and over again against the best defenses in the league. But there were these specific late game moments, like against Boston, where it's like once you start to switch, once you start to take away their paint touches, once you take away the offensive
one of the late game Detroit games, like recently, a couple weeks back, or at this point probably like a month back. But I feel like there could have been some signs there that I feel like we would have given Orlando a little bit more credit for. Like, okay, in theory, like Orlando's guards could make life tough for Cade and how they're gonna, be active in the gap. Suggs, Franz, the different bodies they could throw at Cade. Paolo and Franz healthy, like could them and their ability to slash, specifically Franz's ability to slash, and Paolo as a mid-range scorer, isolationist, and what you get from Desmond Bane as your floor spacer. And Bane the past couple of games, especially in Orlando, has played well. So maybe we would have given them some credit. I think the turnover stuff and the paint dominance, like I think the turnover stuff is just like you said, Orlando's being really turnover reverse right now and not making any out of the ordinary passes. As a matter of fact, Orlando is top half of the league in the playoffs in turnover percentage, which if you told us that going into the series, would have said, okay, wow, this is actually a really interesting series. And Detroit is second worst in the league at turnover percentage in the playoffs. Only team worse is the Lakers, who are winning because they just, through 3 games, couldn't miss a shot. So I don't know. I think I think the bigger, more glaring issue that maybe we didn't like harp on too much that we should have, if we're like, going back, hindsight being 2020, is the fact that they have no secondary creation, and they couldn't. This is so unlike us because we should have hammered home. Normally, we would have hammered home the part that in a playoff setting. Okay, how are you going to put lineups out there consistently that can field, positives for you on both ends of the floor? Because, okay, cool, you got to get Duncan Robinson on the floor, but now teams are just relentlessly hunting him, and we're probably even trying to put him and Duren in two-man action on the defensive side of the floor. Well, okay, cool, now it's Asar and Ron Holland and Beef Stew on the floor, and now Cade Cunningham, which is why I'm assuming we're just going to start with the Pistons Magic series. We've already started it. Cade can be better, for sure, I think, with some of his decision-making and manipulating gaps and stuff like that. But dude, their offense is literally like, Cade, do something. Like, please, like, just shoot ridiculous 19-foot step back jumpers through traffic throughout the entire game, and we'll pray we could get enough stops so live ball stops to run in transition, and we'll pray that Beef Stew and Duren can wake up, or the occasional Asar downhill drive, or the occasional Duncan when he comes in for 17 minutes, spot up three, and we're going to try to win in the 70s. Like, they just, for all of Orlando's flaws, Orlando has enough creators in the half court that can, with 10 seconds out of shot clock, just go create something. Like, Suggs isn't uber efficient, but Suggs can create as a secondary creator at the very least. Desmond Bane can create. Paolo, for all of his flaws and weaknesses, you can use him as a screen setter. You can use him as an elbow isolationist. You can use him as a pick and roll ball handler, like doing some inverted ball screen stuff. And then Franz, when healthy, and he's obviously dealing with the injury now, that I wouldn't test game 5 for personally. It's a calf strain. Like, I'm not testing that. But like Franz and his downhill slashing and his decision making as a passer and creating advantages, like, I don't know. Like, I think that's probably the biggest difference in the series right now is Cade has no space to operate. He has to be better. Yes, his turnovers are way too much of a problem, and he's just not a consistent enough jump shooter still, especially from range, which would have helped counter some of that stuff that Orlando's doing. But I mean, that's really the difference in the series, and Detroit isn't getting any of the easy stuff because Orlando's dominating in the paint, and they're taking enough care of the ball.
Well, Cade's lack of a pull-up three, that's a great point, is one of the biggest factors in why Orlando's able to defend Jalen Duren the way they do. So when Cade comes off a screen from Duren, like that high pick and roll game, that was their bread and butter as an offense all season. It was Cade's going to turn the corner, get downhill, attack, drop coverage, do what he does as a mid-range scorer and as a playmaker. You're going to have to put 2 on the ball. Maybe you're going to have to switch, and then that starts to free up Duren for short roll opportunities. What the Magic have done is they've put Jalen Suggs on the worst shooter on the court, which is most of the time Asar Thompson, sometimes Ron Holland, although Ron Holland's gotten 2 DNPs back-to-back, I believe. They've put Jalen Suggs on Asar Thompson, and his job is just to fully commit to the role every single time. It is, we don't care about anything else happening. We need you to commit to that role. Do not let Duren get the ball inside. Wendell Carter Jr.'s job in the pick and roll, or Goga Batadze, whoever's out there, is to drop all the way back and play Duren from in front. So you have 2 guys just collapsing on Duren, not letting him catch the ball, not letting him get on the offensive glass. And they're telling Cade, when you turn that corner, we are going to pack the paint. You are going to have to beat us as a jump shooter. And I believe he's 6 for 24 on pull-up threes in this series, or something really, really poor. Just not ideal. So if you're going to let him walk into threes and he's making 25% of them, you're just getting a lot of stops. And I think that has been a limitation. The main problem, though, is Cade's turnovers. I just think, yes, he has the ball a lot. Yes, he's asked to do a lot. Yes, he's asked to navigate impossibly tight spaces. I still think he's not doing a great job of managing the game and slowing things down and not making careless turnovers. There were like 3 straight plays in the fourth quarter of the last game where they had like a 2-on-1 or even a 3-on-1 in transition, and he threw the ball away. Those are opportunities you can't lose. That is a complete 2-point swing where you should be getting 2 points. Instead, you're turning it over, and now Orlando's running with a numbers advantage in the opposite direction. Cade just has to do a better job of taking care of the ball, because the reality is, with their poor shooting, they could still be up 3-1 in the series if they just don't turn the ball over so much in those last 2 games. Like, that really was the difference. And granted, I think Desmond Bane's been awesome. The fact that he's been the guy to kind of drag things out of the mud for Orlando's offense when it's been like the most defensive oriented series ever. It kind of reminds me of the 05 finals with Manu Ginobili, where it's like you pull up the box score and everyone in the series has like a 46% true shooting. And then there's just Manu Ginobili averaging 20 points a game on 60% true shooting. Desmond Bane to me feels like the guy, and I don't even know what his efficiency is, but just from watching, it feels like he's the guy who's been consistently relied on, where it's in late game situations or in potential swing moments at the end of the half or whatever, where Desmond Bane getting out in transition, accessing the pull-up three, playing off of Paolo in the post, and just doing a lot of things as an off-the-catch guy. He's really helped them raise the floor, and he's another guy who's turnover averse, which brings me back to that point. The turnover battle has pretty much determined the series, because in a series where neither team can score in the half court, and I cannot stress this enough, they're both averaging like 0.8 points per possession in the half court. It is an absolute disaster. The team that is going to force turnovers and get out and run is going to get the advantage every time. And that has been Orlando. And I think we're going to see maybe a more of an empty the clip type of approach from Cade, where it's instead of hunting for tight windows to pass the ball, instead of looking for a SAR on cuts, instead of trying to force the ball to Duren, we're going to see Cade take like 35 shots. And the sole reason is, like what I said, missing a shot is way better for you than turning the ball over in this series, because then you at least have a chance to set your defense, and you have a chance to get on the offensive glass. Like Asar Thompson's been absolutely phenomenal in the offensive glass because of the fact that a guy like Suggs is going to leave him to help on Duren. But yeah, it's making me rethink a lot. Like Jalen Duren, I don't think a lot of teams could do this to him. The Magic have defended him about as well as like you could possibly expect from any team. It's just been perfect. He's been completely neutralized to the point where Beef Stew's arguably been the better big in this series. I think he had 8 blocks in the last game in like 20 minutes. He was absurd. He was everywhere. But yeah, we're seeing a complete lack of secondary shot creation, a lack of shooting. I do think Detroit should lean into Paul Reed a little bit more. We talked about him in our most underrated players episode. I think Paul Reed's pretty solid. But one thing that really has been in the back of my mind when I talk about regular season indicators and predicting these sorts of things translating to the playoffs. You're familiar with Krishna Narsu from Basketball Index. Great follow, by the way. Everyone check him out on Twitter. Every year he does playoff models for like multiple different metrics. So you've got like estimated plus minus, LeBron, ESPN net points, I think might have been in it this year, Darko, of course, where they use these these catch-all metrics to project the most likely outcomes of a playoff series. And it gives you a percentage. It's like, here's the likelihood this team wins in 4. Here's the likelihood the other team wins in 4. You get the idea. His model had Orlando winning the series. And I remember he was tweeting about it and was like, why does the model think Orlando's going to win this series? Like, is it because they weren't healthy at all and now they have their full lineup? Like, what is happening? And he actually went against his model and he was trying to find like tweaks. Like, why does it think Orlando's going to win this series? And now Orlando's winning the series. Is it just like very specifically the matchup? The fact that Orlando can neutralize everything that makes Detroit great and just beat them at their own game? Because that's what's happening. They're getting beat at their own game. Orlando has become the Detroit Pistons. They've become the 60-win team. I also think it's worth noting Orlando's not a normal 8 seed. They have like 9 rotation players who are all playoff guys. Like Jamal Cain is a playoff guy now. By the way, did you catch that dunk on Duren?
I did catch that dunk on Duren.
My goodness, dude. The audacity to even try that in that moment? Really absurd. But it's funny, like, I don't want to take anything away from Paolo Banchero because he's done his job. Like, he's been the guy that's creating advantages for their offense. He's also been very solid defensively. Like, I think this is the best stretch of defense Paolo's played. But you look at the numbers and he's made like 42% of his 2-pointers. Like, outside of game 1, he just has not been able to buy a bucket. Granted, the free throw rate is amazing, and that's actually like been another huge part of Orlando's offense. The fact that they're consistently putting Detroit in the bonus in those late game situations. So shout out to Paolo, but it's funny, like you get like the playoff Paolo talks on Twitter, but it's really just neither team can produce any offense. And Orlando's been the bigger, more physical, better rebounding, better turnover generating, better overall little things team. So yeah, shout out to the Magic. I don't want to say the series is over though. Like this is still a very winnable series for Detroit. I genuinely think like if everything stayed the same and they just clean up 8 of those turnovers that are completely unnecessary, and it's easier said than done, of course, but like they probably win both games 3 and 4. So it'll be interesting. Game 5 in Detroit. I definitely think they got it. Like if they go out on their home floor as a 1 seed versus the 8, that's just bad. That's just bad. But where do you go from here? if you're the front office, like, do you pay Duren? What moves are you looking to make? Like, where's your head at regarding, let's assume for a second, and this is kind of forward projecting, not talking as much about the playoff series, but if they lose tomorrow, or I guess tonight when you're listening to this, where do you go next if you're Detroit?
I think where you have to go next is one, I don't know how you look at the way the playoffs would have ended for you and said, like, all right, cool, we got to get Cade a secondary ball handler. Like, a secondary ball handler that could create and that could shoot. And granted, I'm not sure where or who that target would be, but I think that's priority number one. I think you still bring back Duren, but I think you can bring back Duren for cheaper than what it would have been, which is just a good thing for you. And then if Duren wants to, try to outprice you, I mean, cool, go test the market. But I mean, you're coming off of a,
Laker,
pretty disappointing, a stinker of a playoff series against the 8 seed. Like, the optics that doesn't look good. So maybe you're able to get Jalen Duren for a little bit cheaper of a price that you would have, a cheaper price tag that you would have gotten him for. Because I still think there's value in the Cade and Duren 2-man game, especially during the regular season, and then in the playoffs, you just adjust. But priority number one is you gotta get more functional, like, shooting on the floor. And by functional shooting, I mean like guys that can just play and be more and add more to the shooting, whether it's secondary playmaking ability, being able to contribute defensively. Like, okay, cool, Kevin Huerter's nice, but he can't play. Or Caris LeVert just had a really, really just tough year. All year, basically. Duncan's cool, but you're just gonna hunt him all year, and
he's so one-dimensional on offense. Like, Orlando's completely taken him out of the game, so he's just not even a factor.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going if I'm Detroit. I'm not overreacting on Cade. I mean, this is a Pistons thing. This is more of like a content thing, honestly. I'm not overreacting on Cade. I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody that's listened throughout the year, I feel like my stance has been the same for the most part on Cade. Like, if we're talking about point guard, like PG1 conversations in the East, I think healthy Halliburton and Brunson are still better. And I feel like I didn't rush and say Cade was better than either one of those guys. I could be wrong. But Cade, throughout the regular season, was playing on that level. I think that's maybe the extent that I would have taken that to. But Cade just simply has to be a better jump shooter and a better decision maker on his passing reads. And to your point, in this playoff series, he's shooting 25% on pull-up threes, 6 for 24, and he's shooting 4 for 17 on pick-and-roll threes in this series.
And that's the shot. Think about it, this is the second playoff series in a row now where the opposing defensive scheme has been to let Cade take a pull-up three. Remember, the Knicks were doing the hedge and under, where Cat would hedge on the ball, briefly take away Cade's driving lane. Cade's defender would go under the screen, and they would give him a little, 3-second window to say, hey, you could either shoot the pull-up three or start over again with no advantage. And he was taking 6 or 7 threes a game at a 20% clip. So, yeah, that's something that definitely needs to be figured out. And that's why I think the ideal backcourt partner for Cade moving forward, or secondary creator in general, has to be someone who can maximize the three-point rate. Like, in my opinion, the ideal possible backcourt partner for Cade would be Tyrese Maxey, because of his speed, because of his off-the-catch ability, because of his own pick-and-roll game, and then, of course, the volume three-point shooting. Obviously, that's not on the table. He's Philly's franchise guy. But I look at, Tyler Hero, I think is someone they could cover for defensively with all their length and size and athleticism, and he would be really nice next to Cade as a volume three-point shooter and creator who can also help unlock Duren in that 2-man game. Austin Reeves, of course, is the guy that I keep seeing floated around, which he's on a contract here, I believe, right? Isn't he a free agent? So yeah, that would be, and I don't think that's necessarily a realistic target because the Lakers value him so much and because he's breaking out in such a major way. But I do think Cade and Reeves would be a really, really nice backcourt. I can't really think of anybody else off the top. Like I was gonna say Drew Holiday, but I think he's past his secondary creator type of days. Yeah, but that's gotta
be Drew Holiday would be nasty.
It would.
2021 Celtics Drew Holiday. Wait, am I right here?
Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks. 22 Celtics.
Bucks,
that era
Drew Holiday was nasty. That's just a hell of a player. Kawhi Leonard's another name I've seen floated around a lot. That would obviously be awesome because then you also have your go-to half-court scorer, and that's something else. I don't know if Cade is efficient enough to be a go-to half-court scorer for a championship level team. And then it's like, where do you find that? Like, that's because he's already one of the 15 best players on the planet overall. So it's like, how do you find someone who can then be your go-to scorer while spacing the floor, while remaining an elite defensive team? It's tough, but Detroit's got some pieces. I do think they're going to have to really like rethink this roster construction of all these athletic defenders. Like, for example, Ron Holland and Asar, long term, just not going to work. Got to move one. And obviously they would move Ron Holland first. But yeah, it's tough for Detroit. They're in a really tough spot. Hell of a season, not over yet. Never say never. They could come back 3-1. But then it's like there's implications from this series that are like, then what happens when you go up against Cleveland or Toronto? What happens when you have to fight Boston or New York in the conference finals? It's not as simple as let's come back 3-1 and then we're good to go. Like there's a lot going on with this roster that needs to be improved. On the Orlando side of things, I just think they're better than a normal 8 seed. And maybe we both underrated them when we ranked our playoff teams. Like I didn't think they would just notch this like defensive level back where they're all of a sudden just an elite defense again. And that was kind of one of the concerns throughout the season. They've been able to maintain their pace on offense. Like you said, they've got multiple creators. Like the Jalen Suggs experience is hilarious because he'll shoot 1 for 13, but he's got the confidence of someone who can shoot like or average 35 and be a lead creator. And it's just kind of funny to watch when he goes cold. But then when he goes hot, like in the first quarter of game 1, he had like 5 threes. And it's, oh wow, Jalen Suggs is going to swing this playoff game. And then everything he does defensively, it's pretty funny. But yeah, off the bench, they just got so many guys. Like Goga Batadze has been awesome in this series. Even switching on to Cade and holding his own one-on-one. Like we talked about Wendell Carter. Tristan Da Silva's giving them some great minutes. So yeah, I think Orlando's in a great spot. I am waiting to see what happens with Cleveland and Toronto because that game 5 is coming up. And we can actually move on to that, Cleveland and Toronto, because that will be who faces against the winner of Pistons Magic. What are your kind of general thoughts on that series?
Cleveland, Toronto. First off, man, Colin Murray-Boyles is, dude, Colin Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes. If Scotty Barnes is not all defensive team, then we just need to like just scrap.
I'm pretty sure he was 4th or 5th in the defensive player of the year voting, so he'll probably make the first team.
Okay, that's deserving. I mean, he's just his versatility, dude, defensively, and I mean, he's such a smart player too. I think defensively too. I think his timing, his feel, and wanting to avoid mismatches and stuff like that defensively. Like they were trying to go at RJ down the stretch in the 4th quarter of Game 4, and he was trying to pre-switch some stuff and keep RJ out of the action because I mean, between him, CMB, and Jamal Shed, they were doing a phenomenal job at crowding their space, crowding Harden's space, Donovan Mitchell's space, and Donovan Mitchell is an elite shot maker, so he's able to get a couple of really tough looks off from 3. One of them on Scotty in the 4th quarter of Game 4. But I think, I don't know, man. I think Toronto's offense. I think. One, I don't like watching Toronto's offense. I haven't been a fan of watching Toronto's offense. Darko's entire run. Just gonna throw a random sub at Darko for no reason. He's catching a stray. But with that being said, man, like, I can now like his offense and still kind of get to a point where I can say, I think Darko's a good coach. I think Darko's a really solid coach. I think their offense personnel isn't the best, but I also think he could be doing a little bit more creatively with their offense and just trying to generate easier shots for them. Like it does kind of feel like we're resorting to Scotty pushing semi-transition, find your mismatch, and maybe we're able to kick out to BI or Jacoby Walter or whoever the case may be, or RJ just being a battering ram and trying to bulldoze through Donovan Mitchell at the rim. But I think some more movement stuff will be nice and then, okay, cool, 10 seconds on the shot clock. Let's get our switch. Scotty, go to the mid-range game and do what you do there. Cleveland, man, offensively, I think Toronto's doing a really great job with their pressure with, Jamal or with Scotty or CMB. I think they're doing a really good job in not letting Cleveland fully get comfortable and just be able to get into their actions really, really smoothly. Cleveland, although at the same time, I don't necessarily think has done the best job at attacking off of advantages that they do create in the half court. Like it almost resorts to, like, okay, cool, we've created this 3-on-2 scenario. Let's reset. Let's get it back out to Harden to isolate with 7 on the shot clock, or with, Donovan Mitchell go 2-man game with Evan Mobley where, you shoot contested shot. At least that's what Game 4 felt like. And there's a couple possessions in the fourth where Sarah Merrill got a couple of clean looks. But outside of that, I do think Cleveland isn't, or necessarily specifically Game 4, had a great punch back to the physicality of Toronto and just kind of let Toronto dictate the flow of the game with their physicality, and just played, okay, cool. Okay, we have Harden, we have Donovan Mitchell. You're not going to be able to make this game like this. And Toronto absolutely made the game the way they did. And they just hit enough shots down the stretch. I thought Evan Mobley on the glass has been good. And Jared Allen had 13 rebounds, I think, in Game 4. But I think the thing going forward is how does Cleveland continue to try to keep Scottie out of the action? Because if Scottie is just able to dictate where he's at on the floor at all times, then I think that's where Toronto, especially when they go to more of the defensive slanted lineups where it's Jamal, RJ, BI, Scottie, CMB. If you're allowing Scottie to just roam or be whatever he wants to be on that possession, I'm not saying he's 2015 Kawhi Leonard, but like the reason why, I think, was it you that did a video on 2015 Kawhi Leonard and why he's one of the best defensive players of all time? Okay, cool. Yeah. Great plug. Go watch it.
Appreciate you.
But the reason why I bring that up is because I remember one of the points you brought up is like, dude, okay, you want to take him out of the action? He's just going to eliminate it. He's just going to eliminate your current action still while it's off-ball activity. And, his length in the passing lanes and stuff like that, if you bring him on the ball, he's going to, get steals and be super, super disruptive and be one of the best point of attack one-on-one defenders on the planet. Scottie has a really good defensive possession where he's guarding Donovan Mitchell. They try to get a screen and get a switch. He just blows through it and funnels Donovan Mitchell into CMB maybe and forces a pass out, and Toronto does a good job rotating. Like, Scottie's versatility defensively, I think, has to be the story of the series, especially the past 2 games.
I think Scottie and CMB together, like that defensive duo, their versatility together is the story of the series right now when they're tied up 2 games apiece. When CMB comes in, they just switch everything, and it is the most just like seamless switching because it's CMB's 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's 250 pounds. He moves like a guard. And so it's like, okay, yeah, let's pull CMB into the action. And now it's CMB, go press up. He's pressing up on James Harden 40 feet away from the basket, and James Harden can't create any space. He's pressing onto Mitchell and stripping his handle at the 3-point line. It's absurd stuff. And then it's like, okay, the Cavs want to avoid CMB. That's the thing, and I'm so glad you brought that up with Scottie. You can't really avoid these guys. They just make their presence felt everywhere. So what we've seen is the Cavs have decided they're going to go to guard action, right? And it's like, we want to avoid CMB, we want to avoid Scottie, so we're going to run this little guard-to-guard action and get the switch from Shed to RJ Barrett. But then what happens? RJ Barrett now has to isolate, and either Scottie or CMB is just sitting in the gap. And they're both just these monster defensive playmakers who are always going to be in the right spot at the right time. They're going to stunt, they're going to jump passing lanes, they're going to make their presence known with their length. And then if you get past one of them, the other one's at the rim because the Cavs don't go 5 out. Like if Mobley's in the dunker or Allen's in the dunker, CMB's probably matched up with them, just waiting at the rim, and he's a legit vertical presence. There's another play where Scottie's matched up with Mobley. This is when the Cavs have their double bigs in. Scottie's matched up with Mobley. CMB's matched up with Allen in the dunker. Mobley sets a high ball screen, and he does a great job of pinning on the switch, like pinning Scottie to the 3-point line and then slipping into open space. He gets the ball in the short roll. CMB is in the dunker with Allen, just shoots up to the short roll and meets Mobley at the free throw line. Mobley immediately makes the right read, short roll pass. But Scottie, who was following Mobley, peels onto Allen, meets him at the rim with a huge block. The ball bounces back to Mobley. He up fakes. Barnes leaves his feet. Then CMB comes in and blocks Mobley. And it's like, dude, what is happening in this series? And then you look at Colin Murray Boyles, and it's, hey, you're 6'7". You're playing the 5 full time in the series. How can you keep Allen and Mobley off the glass? He's been the best rebounder in this series. He's completely neutralized them on the glass. Not only is he amazing at using his leverage to just like push them out and get into their body and box out and establish position, He's a really quick 2-foot leaper and he's got super long arms. So he's just always the first to the ball on both sides, on both ends. I'm pretty sure Cleveland only has like a 20% offensive rebounding percentage during CMB's minutes in the series, which is just absurd. That's like really bad. CMB's averaging 5 offensive rebounds per 75 possessions, which is like Steven Adams level stuff. It's insane. And that brings me back to what I said earlier about how certain players translate to the playoffs, right? Like certain skill sets translate to the playoffs. Colin Murray Boyles is a 20-year-old. He's a 20-year-old rookie. He's a 20-year-old rookie, and he has been a like all-star level impact player in this series on both sides of the ball. Let me give you a guess. Let me give you a guess. What do you think Colin Murray Boyles is averaging as a scorer in this series in terms of points per 75 and true shooting percentage?
0.5 on 70% true shooting.
25 points per 75 on 68% true shooting. The only rookie in NBA history to do that. Yeah, you were a little bit 70%. So that's kind of crazy. 68.
I'm off by 2%.
A calm little 68%, way below what you would have guessed. No, but 25 points per 75. And it's like, I'm a play finisher. I'm a connector. On this play, I'm actually isolating Mobley. It is ridiculously impressive stuff. Like, I think CMB is a solidified all-star in the making. Like, I couldn't possibly, I had a tweet last night where I said I bought all of the CMB stock. It doesn't exist anymore. I own it all. That guy is a monster. The thing that's impressed me most with Scotty, I've kind of been on board for the last year or two now with the transition floor general stuff, the playmaking, the defensive versatility. What's really caught my eye in this series is the fact that he's been able to impose himself as a 2-point scorer in the half court to a degree that I didn't really think he was capable of. Like playing from the post or playing in spread pick and roll, turning the corner, getting downhill, using the mid range. If you would have put down, you said you caught the fourth quarter. If you would have put down that dunk against Allen in the last, like that would have been like the dunk of the lead century.
And one.
Yeah, that would have been absolutely absurd. But like the confidence from both CMB and Scotty, and then also RJ Barrett, the confidence with him, he seems a lot more poised than before with the pick and roll reads, right? Like putting a defender in jail, working his way inside the arc, playing patient, getting to the rim, like you said, just bulldozing his way into the paint as a slasher, making all the right reads as a playmaker, and then also the 3-point shot's been dropping. So RJ Barrett, CMB, and Scotty, I'd give all of their performances in the series A++. Jamal Shed, you know your limitations with him on offense. He's not much of a spacer, not much of a creator, but he kind of needs to handle the ball to avoid some spacing issues. It's a weird dynamic there, but then you need him on the court because his defensive pressure and all that stuff is just absolutely incredible. And he's played a big role in James Harden turning the ball over 15 times in the last 2 games, 7.5 turnovers per game in the last 2 games with Jamal Shed just pressing him at all times. I will say, you said the offense hasn't been great to watch. Emmanuel quickly being out, I think plays a big role in that. Like he is their kind of main ball handler in pick and roll situations. He is their turnover suppressor. But also it's opened the door for a guy like Jamal Shed to come in and do what he does. It's opened the door for Jacoby Walter to come in. Jamison Battle swung game 3 with his 3-point shooting in the fourth quarter. And I don't think he probably sees the floor if Quickly's healthy. So it is interesting. I do think Toronto, their biggest superpower going into this series, and I'll maintain it, is the fact that they have like 10 guys who are all at least replacement level players or above in the playoffs. Like you can go to the 9th or 10th guy off the bench. We can just rattle off names, right? Like Jamal Shed, RJ Barrett. We'll count Quickly just for now because he's on the roster, but he's not playing, obviously. Scotty Barnes, Colin Murray Boyles, Jakob Poeltl, Sandro Mamukelashvili, Jamison Battle, Jacoby Walter. And I feel it. Am I missing anybody? Like, did I even say Brandon Ingram?
Did you say Brandon Ingram? I don't think you did.
Although, is he a replacement level player? Because that's the one variable that's like the only thing holding Toronto back from having complete control of the series is the fact that Ingram has just been a complete non-factor. At first it was Dean Wade, just full on ball denial, not letting him touch the ball. He got like 2 touches in the second half of game 1. They ended up moving Wade onto Barnes because Barnes was destroying their other wings, and he was destroying Mobley. And Ingram still hasn't really been a factor. I think there's just something to this archetype of I'm not really a blow-by threat. I'm also not a pull-up 3-point threat. I'm also not an elite playmaker. So like all of my scoring has to come in the middle of the floor. So once the defense hones in on that, it's like the DeMar DeRozan problem where Ingram isn't actively like hurting a lot of possessions by just being a decoy, by just spacing, by just not turning the ball over. but he's also not actively adding anything on either side of the ball, and he's kind of just been out there doing cardio. He did have a big three, granted, in the fourth quarter of that last game, but yeah, Ingram has to step it up if they want to win this series. That's kind of my big takeaway. Like, there's so much to like with Toronto. I still think with the way this series has played out and the amount of different situations they've gotten into where it's just who can generate the better half-court offense, I do think Cleveland has this overwhelming ball handling and creation advantage, similar to what we talked about with Orlando and Detroit. So even though Toronto's taken these last two games and they've taken them like pretty convincing, like game 3 was a convincing win. Game 4, they just were the better team down the stretch, and that was, but it's also, if Donovan Mitchell gets the ball across half court, is this a 3-1 series right now? Like, and that was the best defensive play of the year from Jamal Shed. But it was also like, come on, Donovan Mitchell, what are we doing? Get the ball across half court. Come on. Same thing with James Harden. Like with some of these turnovers, like I think James Harden will be more aggressive as a scorer. Stop trying to hunt for those passing lanes through the gaps. Because the one thing you brought up, and I think this is a testament to Darko, their gap discipline is just off the charts good. Like they're so good at plugging the gaps. They're so good at rotating, so good at closing out. And like you said, Cleveland hasn't been able to break down those rotations consistently. So yeah, a lot to love with Toronto. I still think Cleveland just has more offensive juice in the series, and Toronto has struggled at times to create any semblance of offense. So I am still thinking Cleveland goes up 3-2 in game 5 and takes home the series. Where's your head at? You think Cleveland's still looking good?
I think Cleveland will be fine eventually. Like I do think the series goes 7. I think this series goes to a game 7 back in Cleveland. I have a crazy Brandon Ingram stat for you. I did not think this was true. Like I had to go fact check this on 2 different sites, and I trust both sites, but I mean it was so bizarre that I just didn't believe it. Okay, per 75 possessions, Brandon Ingram is providing you 2.4 rim attempts per 75 possessions, which is not good. And the only 2 players that are currently playing really in this series that are taking less rim attempts at per 75 possessions are Jamal Shed and Jacoby Walter. Jameson Battle too, so I'll give you a third one. Jameson Battle isn't taking any shots at the rim through
it was
3
just
games.
Straight 3. It was just game 3, fourth quarter. He came in and made like 4 threes. That was literally it.
So we're not even going to count Jameson Battle, okay? Do you want to take a wild guess at Brandon Ingram's rim shot? Rim field goal percentage?
I would imagine it's like 50%.
No, you got to go lower.
Bad. The league
Severely
the
lower.
league average is like 65%, I think.
Yeah, severely lower.
35%?
Lower.
Stop.
I'm so serious.
I mean, to be fair, there is a sample size concern here. Like, what is it?
There is
You
a
said
sample size
2.4 shots.
concern.
So what is he taking, like 12 shots total?
He's taking Synergy has it at 11.
11?
But it's probably
So what is he,
12.
3 for 11, 27%?
He's 11% at the rim in this series.
1 for 11? Dude. Okay, I can't even chalk that up to sample size. That's egregious. That's
1 for 11 at the rim. He is shooting 33% on pull-up jump shots, 35% on pull-up twos. He's taking a lot of them. Pull-up twos, obviously the mid-range is his largest diet of shot. He's 9 for 26 on pull-up twos. He's 5 for 13 in total from 3 in this series. But like,
the problem there is he's only getting 3 threes up.
Yeah.
Per game.
And like, if I'm Cleveland, okay, cool, bro. Like, if we're just doing the math here, a Brandon Ingram pull-up jump shot, like that's 0.7 points per shot. That's you're getting a boost because of the threes. If we're
that'll win you the series against Detroit. That'll play, man. That'll play.
Brandon Ingram and Cade, bro. That's you heard it here first. But just on the twos, he's what 0.68 points per shot attempt on pull-up twos. Like, dude, we're living with those. Take those all year, especially if that's your largest diet of shot attempt. You're providing basically nothing at the rim. You're not an advantage creator at all. Yeah, cool beans, Brandon Ingram. Go ahead and shoot that broke shit.
I will say my biggest takeaway from this series on Toronto's end is I do think this trio of RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and CMB, there's something there. That is a core. That is a really nice core. I think CMB and Scotty, specifically that duo, is just going to be like, what are they already, a top 5 defensive duo in the league? Top 3 defensive duo in the league? I mean, let's limit it to 1 per team. So you get Wemby and 1 teammate. You get Chet and 1 teammate. You get Gobert and McDaniels. After that, like, is there a better defensive duo in the league? I guess Nemish Queta and Derek White can be considered that.
Then what?
Maybe
CMB
take Barnes and CMB though.
Scotty. Okay. Okay. Wait. Playoff setting. Both healthy. Draymond, Jimmy. Where are your heads at?
Yeah. Draymond, Jimmy might be the best in a playoff setting. That's. I mean, who would be the Spurs duo? Would it be Wemby Castle?
That's the one that comes to my mind immediately.
Yeah, or Wemby Carter Bryant, I guess, if you want to get real deep in your bag. Chet and Caruso.
Chet Caruso. I mean, really Chet and Caruso
Chet
slash
and
Kaysen slash J-Dub slash Dort. Like, just pick any one of those 4.
But I think CMB and Scotty at worst is a top 5 defensive duo in the league right now.
Yeah, at worst.
OG and Mitchell Robinson, another really good one. Detroit, Asar and Beef Stew, but like these aren't even duos that really play together that much. Like Asar and Beef Stew play 9 minutes a game together. Like Scotty and CMB have been the 2 linchpins of this series for Toronto. CMB is getting up to like 30 minutes a game now. So yeah, shout out Toronto, shout out to their core. I do think, and I feel like we didn't really give any credit to Cleveland's side of things on this. They still have so many high level 3-point shooters. They still have 2 big lob targets, and although Toronto's kind of neutralized that with the switching a little bit, I do still think like Mitchell and Harden should be able to win their matchups consistently, and they've kind of just both went cold at the same time at the wrong time. I think all it really takes is a big game from either one of them to win a game in this series. So like you said, if this goes to 7, I think Mitchell will have a big game 7. Like I feel like that's kind of just the way this series will play out if it gets to that point. But yeah. It's anybody's series. It's up in the air.
Let's stay in the East. Let's go to Knicks Atlanta. Knicks Hawks go to the other side of the bracket now. I was about to say the more entertaining of the 2 series, but Boston Philly has been sneaky fun. It's been a sneaky fun series. New York. This is the fresher game. At least New York blitzed Atlanta tonight, Game 5. They had a great bounce back response in Game 4 after a very uncharacteristic 2 really uncharacteristic Brunson moments in both Game 2 and Game 3 in the clutch that allowed CJ and the Hawks to steal both of those games. What's your biggest takeaway from that series so far?
My biggest takeaway from that series is kind of something we've alluded to in prior episodes where we talked about the Knicks have a weakness, right? When you have Brunson and Cat on the court together, it's just if you can find a way to put them both in action and attack both simultaneously, you can really neutralize a lot of what makes them a great defensive team, right? Like there's just, you space them out. Now OG's tasked with doing way more than he is supposed to be doing. Josh Hart then has to be your primary point of attack guy at times. Mikal Bridges isn't a perfect wing defender, although he's been very good in this series. What we've seen is that anytime you cannot force them to like play out of structure on defense, they're just a really good defensive team. They were an elite defense this season in the regular season. They were a really good defense in all of the late game situations against Boston last year in the playoffs. They were a great defensive team against Detroit in the playoffs. It was only against Indiana when they just completely fell apart, and that's because Indiana knew how to attack both Brunson and Cat at the same time. And we're seeing it again in this series. The Knicks half-court defense has just been absolutely phenomenal. Like Mikal on Nickeil Alexander-Walker, he's basically just completely neutralized him. We've seen them put Cat on Dyson Daniels. Dyson Daniels is now only getting like 25 minutes a game because he's just being played off the floor as a non-shooter. They've been leaning towards Kuminga and those sorts of guys. Just tonight, they only grabbed 5 offensive rebounds, and that's what we talked about. We talked about how the Knicks are the best defensive rebounding team in the league in the regular season, and they were amazing, an amazing defensive rebounding team against top 10 offenses. They completely neutralized Atlanta on the glass. So you're able to get into your shell defense. You're able to hide Cat. You're kind of switching with Brunson, but kind of living with the result, kind of like with Boston, where it's, yeah, you can go ahead and try and beat Brunson. Like CJ McCollum, we know you can beat Brunson one-on-one, but what kind of offense is that actually going to lead to? Like when we're going to zone up on your non-shooters and you're not going to get any offensive rebounds. And I do think New York's just done a really, really good job of getting into their set defense, limiting Atlanta's half court offense, especially with Jalen Johnson, right? And this is one of the guys I was kind of alluding to when we talked about players whose translation from the regular season to the playoffs, it's just a completely different environment. Jalen Duren was the main guy, but Jalen Johnson is another one who's kind of been like under the radar, not the same player from any standpoint as a scorer or as a passer. And I think it's due to one issue. Josh Hart has gotten the Jalen Johnson matchup. He's been amazing. Like Josh Hart has been arguably the defensive MVP of the series for New York, just specifically with the way he's neutralized Jalen Johnson. And it's the fact that he's got a low center of gravity. He's a lot shorter than Jalen Johnson, so he can get up under him, kind of like what we saw with Tony Allen or Chris Paul against KD back in the mid-2010s, where you get up under his center of gravity, push him off his spot, limit the handle. And what we've seen from Jalen Johnson is that he doesn't have a tight enough handle to deal with pressure or deal with aggressive gap help. So what happens is every single time Jalen Johnson tries to attack in the half court, he just turns his back to the basket or picks the ball up early. And he's basically just only a jump shooter in this series. There's no rim pressure in the half court. He's not getting to the free throw line in the half court. And it's kind of an extension of like that also showed up in the regular season a little bit. Like when you look at Jalen Johnson as an athlete, you expect more than 5 shots at the rim and 5 free throw attempts per 75 possessions. But in this series, it's been just he's not getting to the rim in the half court, not getting to the line. And that was the bulk of where they found the regular season offense. Like he was a guy who would get 8 assists a game. He averaged like 85 touches in the regular season. That's their offense. So when you completely neutralize Jalen Johnson and keep him out of the paint, you help off of the non-shooters like Dyson Daniels or Mo Gay, even at times a Kongwu, letting him take some threes. You keep them off the offensive glass. Now it's CJ McCollum, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Can you beat us as jump shooters? But then Mikhail's all over Alexander-Walker. So it's CJ McCollum. Can you beat us as a jump shooter? And from start to finish in the series, Atlanta's half-court offense has not been good. They just have not been a good half-court offense at all. Where they gained the advantage was the first 3 games of the series. They were an unbelievable transition team, like unbelievably good, getting out and running with every opportunity. I want to say, are you familiar with Cleaning the Glass's points added metric by any chance?
I am not actually. Please explain.
So cleaning, finally, a stat that Sean doesn't have pulled up in front of him to read for me. So Cleaning the Glass has a points added per 100 possessions metric for every play type. Meaning, for example, how many points per 100 do you add in transition with your play or lose with your transition play? Generally, the best teams in the league are like plus 3 points per 100 in transition, right? Like that's where you get your Indiana Pacers, your Cleveland Cavs from last year. Even the Hawks from last year were up there like 0.3, maybe, or plus 3, maybe plus 4 points per 100 possessions. In the first 3 games of the series, the Hawks were plus 10 in transition. They were just they were adding essentially 10 points to their offensive rating in transition is essentially what that stat's telling us. So getting out and running, and they've got the facilities to do that, right? Like they have multiple guys who can handle the ball in space. Jalen Johnson is a monster in transition, and he's been a monster in transition in this series. Dyson Daniels has a ton of utility in the open floor. They've got the shooters to streak alongside those guys like CJ McCollum, Alexander Walker. They're going to free up for transition threes, and they're not afraid to let it fly. But the Knicks in these last 2 games have just completely taken the transition game out of it. They've crashed the offensive glass to make Atlanta send more like rebound by committee. They've made an effort to get back, zone up behind the transition run, and Atlanta with no transition offense and then all of the half court offensive problems, they just haven't been able to score, man. Like their offensive ratings dipped into like the 100 range. They didn't even break 100 points tonight. Yeah, that's
their half court offensive rating is 91.1.
What's Detroit and Orlando? I'm gonna keep going back to that. I'm just curious.
Detroit's 81.
Yeah.
God, Detroit's 81.4. And Orlando's 84.4. You have 4 teams in the 80s for their half court offensive rating.
Can I guess the teams?
Yeah.
I guess the teams. So we got Detroit and Orlando, obviously. Yep. I want to say Portland.
Portland is right above Detroit. Actually, Portland's tied with Orlando, 84.4.
Yeah, Detroit or Portland's offense has been really bad. Then there's one more team. It's not Toronto, is it?
No, don't overthink it.
Houston. Yeah. Houston.
Yes.
They were 0.79 through the first 2 games?
Yeah. Their half court offensive rating is 85.
Yeah, but going back to Knicks Hawks, that's my takeaway. What about you?
I think for the Knicks, I think their offense is just super out of a rhythm. I think earlier on in the series, I think they've so far, and they're good. This is actually with a boost from a really, really, really good Brunson performance tonight. Brunson's been an uncharacteristically like mediocre jump shooter, and mediocre is like kind of like selling it politely. Catch and shoot, he's been ridiculous. Like he's 7 for 11 on catch and shoot threes in this series. But Brunson so far this series, and his bread and butter is obviously the isolation mid range stuff. And this is actually going to make my point a bit more impressive, and I'll get to it in a second, just about how insane of a creator Brunson still is, even in a fine series overall. I think it like bell to bell, if you want to call it that, like through the first 5 games in total, it's been a fine series. Brunson on pull-up twos this series, he's 8 for 27, so about 30% on pull-up twos this series. And he's 6 for 20 on pull-up threes, so basically 30% pull-up jump shooter throughout this series, 0.72 points per shot attempt. Mind you, this is still how elite of a creator Brunson is. On a per-possession basis, Jalen Brunson on isolation attempts, which makes up about a fifth of his play type data. So you're still the bulk of his possessions are in isolation, and then the other ones are in ball screens. He's still generating 1.12 points per possession. And this goes back to the take you've kind of been saying the entire time about getting a missed shot is better than turning the ball over. Brunson shooting 50% on his isolation possessions. He's shooting 41% on his pick and roll ball handler possessions. That's because he's shooting 27% on pick and roll threes, and he hasn't hit an isolation 3 percentage. But guess his turnover percentage of both pick and roll and isolation.
7% probably.
On isolation attempts, percentage literally 0. He has not turned the ball over in isolation.
Can I pause you right there? Dude, he's isolating Dyson Daniels half the time, who averaged 3 steals last year. You're telling me Dyson couldn't get it once?
And on all of his isolation possessions, including pass outs, and this, mind you, includes other players touching the ball, the turnover percentage is 2.9. Yeah, so a Jalen Brunson isolation possession, just you're getting a shot up. We talk all the time about.
Also, the Knicks are so good at possession maxing too. Like, yeah, even when they do, like, they're not going to turn the ball over. They're going to get a shot up. And then there's also the chance that they grab 20 offensive rebounds because Mitchell Robinson comes in or Cat is crashing.
OG, Josh Hart.
And I do think the Knicks, like, I will say, I was kind of under the impression that the Knicks were going to handle the Hawks very cleanly in the series. I had it as a 5-game series. The Hawks have played up to the level, like they've responded to the challenge. They took 2 games, but I do still come away feeling like the Knicks are the overwhelmingly better team in this series.
Yeah, I picked the Knicks in 5, but I thought it'd be a fun 5-game series because I thought the Knicks were going to kind of do what they did and just somehow lose a game that they weren't supposed to lose. And, I mean, you're basically like game 3, if they just, is that the game they should have won? Yeah, I think game 3 was the game they should have won. If they just finished the job in game 3, like game 4 and game 5, they've very clearly been the better team. And then game 1, you just win game 1. Yeah, like this is, you're again a very rare Brunson collapse down the stretch from being up and actually the series being over. But the fact that Brunson is just never going to turn the ball over, and Cat's had such a great series, I think, too. OG, I had to tweet out, I don't know what, I'm going to use air quotes all-star, because I think OG is an all-star level player, but what all-star are superstar, like non-superstar. So what superstar, when non-superstar or non-all-star in the league is better than OG. Like, he's very clearly one of the elite non-superstar players in the entire NBA.
It's like the episode we had about the, like, what's a role player, essentially, like superstar role players. That's kind of the archetype you're going for here, where it's like they're too good to be a role player, but they get labeled as a role player because they're not a primary scorer. Among those types, I mean, it depends on what you consider, like who you consider. I think OG, the only guys, it depends, like, what do you make of Bam in that type of conversation? Is he too involved in the offense to be in that discussion?
I think they run too much of their stuff through Bam.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Same with like Evan Mobley. The other guy's Derek White. who OG's been way better than Derek White in the playoffs.
I mean, not
and
Bam.
we can have
OG's
that
been way
conversation when we
better.
get to Boston. But Rudy Gobert obviously is another name, but like he's kind of like if you're just like the second best defender on the planet every year, or the first for the last decade, you're a star. You're an all-star. Like you're OG is probably right now playing the best basketball of any player who hasn't made an all-star team. That to me is the respectable take there. Yeah, he's awesome. Every team would love, like, I had this thought the other day, and it wasn't just related to OG. He was one of the guys on my mind, but it was like, if every team in the league says we need our version of this guy, or we need a guy like this guy, then that player is probably a lot better than you think. So every fan base being like, man, we just need an OG and an OB type, or man, we just need a Derek White type. It's like, well, those guys are on one team. There's one of them, and they're going to impact the game like an all-star, doing all the little things. Although, like I said, we'll get to the Boston conversation because I've got my Derek White qualms. But yeah, OG's been awesome. I'm glad you brought him up. I'm glad you specifically highlighted him. Mikal Bridges has had the weird offensive funk going on, but I can't fault him too much because, like I said, he's pretty much neutralized Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the series, and that's been really important in limiting Atlanta's half-court offense. Cat, to me, has been the best player for New York, like very clearly. They're probably up 3-1 if Mike Brown doesn't decide to just do a 10-minute stretch without Cat or Brunson for some reason. I don't know what that was about, and I think that was game 2. And granted, they still were up in the 4th when they kind of threw that game away.
They did a game 2 and game 3, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, there was in game 3, they were like plus 16 with Cat on the court and they lost. And it was like, just give the guy more minutes. It's clear that he's such a uniquely skilled offensive big at his size that when you have a team in Atlanta, like they're really missing Jock Landale right now, because when you have all of these like lengthy fake bigs like Muhammad Gay and Onyeka Okongwu who are more power forwards, Cat is too big, too fast, and too skilled for them. It's very obvious. Like you have to send so much help to him whenever he catches the ball in the post or on the perimeter. And then he diced them up as a playmaker. And was that in game 4? He had a triple-double. Like, shout out to Cat, man. He's hooping.
We'll end up with our last series then in the East, and it's Boston and Philly. And this has been a really interesting series. Game 2, we kind of saw typical Boston playoff collapse in the sense of shots don't fall. Boston does it look good, and, other team hits enough shots, and now you're able to pull off a game and make it a series. And B comes back into the fold, and game 4 is, pretty clumsy. I think clumsy might be the way I would describe it for Philly. And Tatum and Pam Pritchard in game 4 was just absurd. And then tonight, game 5 in Boston, Philly goes in, and Embiid just being, dude, Embiid, I'm not going to say I was like the biggest Embiid stan, especially in his prime. I always respected Embiid, though. I had a very healthy respect for Embiid in his prime and what he was able to accomplish as a scorer and just as a mismatch problem. But the fact that at this stage of his career, after all the injuries and all the stuff he's endured, for one, like, if there's one guy you could just never question their competitiveness or their toughness as a player, is Joel Embiid. I think that is a fact. That dude has played through literally every injury in WebMD that you can freaking look up. Joel Embiid has probably played with that injury. And for him to, at this stage, very clearly, like, lacks all mobility, like, on both ends of the floor, to be completely honest with you. But the fact that he is such an insane mismatch problem for anybody on the floor, the fact that he's still just such a reliable and comfortable jump shooter. Like, he was shot 0 for 5 from 3 tonight, but he's pushing the ball in transition and walking into 19-foot pull-up twos in transition or semi-transition, or, elbow face up, reads the help is starting to come over and just shoots over Derek White or shoots over Neemias Queta. And again, Boston tonight didn't hit enough jump shots to really win the game or just generate enough offense. Tatum shoots 4 for 12 from 3. I think I have it pulled up right here. Tatum's 4 for 12 from 3. Jaylen Brown 1 for 4 from 3, and he's 8 for 19 from 2 for a really inefficient 22 points. Pam Pritchard goes 1 for 5. Sam Hauser 2 for 5. Derek White 0 for 4. I'm going to save the Derek White monologue for you. So when you get this kind of night shooting-wise for Boston, and Embiid's such a mismatch problem. They really, really hammered in the like post up stuff tonight for their offense. I think game 4 they had 10 post up scoring possessions, including pass outs. Tonight they almost doubled that. I want to say it's 19, and they scored like a 1.2 points per possession in the on true post ups. No, sorry, 1.36 points per possession on 19 post up scoring possessions tonight. They really just fed Embiid in the post, or got some stuff for Paul George. Paul George's been a really good like secondary ball handler and just creating advantages for those guys. Quinn Grimes comes in, hits a couple of huge threes. In game 2 specifically, I felt the story of that game was how Boston was going to adjust their ball screen coverage, because Maxey in game 2 is just walking in the pull-up threes, and you add in BJ hitting some of his threes that he was able to get game 2 as well. And I think the adjustment of that was they started to ice a lot of the stuff more, ice a lot more of the ball screen stuff with Maxey, but play a little bit higher up to contain it, and not let him just walk into those pull-up threes. Well, now Maxey with Embiid back is just hitting that short roll pocket pass to Embiid every single time, and Embiid shooting comfortably 18-foot jump shots. So I didn't give the Sixers much of a shot coming into the series, and I'm being more Sixers focused with the analysis. Right now, I know you're going to talk about Boston a lot, but I do wonder what this series looks like if Embiid's healthy, or whatever his current version of healthy is, if he's a go game 1, because it might be too late for Philly to pull off 2 more, especially now that Boston gets to maybe adjust some stuff and they have 2 more chances to get 1 win. But now, honestly, my question is like, Boston coverage wise, what do you do defensively? And then especially if you're going to get the like secondary production from Quinn Grimes, who shoots 4 for 7 from 3, BJ, who's going to chip in basically 10 to 15 and hit 2 or 3 threes. Maxey, he shot 3 for 10 from 3, but he shot 7 for 8 on his 2s. Embiid and Maxey tonight shot 19 for 26 on their 2s. It doesn't matter if they shot 3 for 15 from 3. They just walked into clean looks from 2, and it's because of their 2-man game, and they also combined for 13 assists and 5 turnovers. So, like, I'm more curious to see what Boston does defensively, because Boston has made it clear that if they don't hit shots, then it's going to be tough.
What's tough about that is I think Philly has a few things that are kind of unschemable, right? Like, we always talk about physical advantages and what that means in a playoff series, but like Joel Embiid's size, there's no scheme for that. He's just bigger than you. He's just stronger than you. He's just taller than you. He's going to shoot over the top of you. And one of my kind of big takeaways from Boston in this series, and why I'm a bit lower on them moving forward deeper into the playoffs, is I think I trusted their front court rotation a little bit too much. And I don't even necessarily think it took a guy like Embiid to open my eyes on that. It's more so Nemish Queta in this series has been like the worst fouling machine I've ever seen in my life. It is like, remember what we used to see from like Cat and Jaren Jackson Jr. in that series when it was like they could play like 11 minutes and they have 5 fouls? That's what Nemish Queta has been doing. I think in game 4 he had like 5 fouls in 18 minutes or something like that. It's like the guy's just a fouling machine. And obviously Embiid is the ultimate foul drawer, but Queta was even struggling with fouls against Drummond, against Adem Bona at the 5. And it's like, if you play Queta off the floor by getting him into foul trouble, now your defensive big man rotation is Vooch and Luka Garza. And that's food. And that's what we saw in game 2. It was, I believe it was Vooch pretty much most of the game just in drop coverage. And Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe both, it was like they were eating a buffet of come off the ball screen, and if you step up, I'm too fast for you. And if you drop way back, we're going to shoot. They both took like 10 threes and made 6 of them. So it was like, yeah. And then everyone was like, well, Philly just got lucky shooting the ball. And it's, well, that's a problem going into the future. Like, what happens if you meet Cleveland in the conference finals? And now it's Mitchell and Harden walking into drop coverage from Vooch and Luka Garza. Or even in the second round, what if it's Jalen Brunson coming off a ball screen and walking into Vooch or Luka Garza in drop coverage? I think their center rotation is a real problem unless Queta can hone in some of these fouls. The other kind of major qualm I have with Boston, and actually it's kind of a 2-parter because there is the Derek White side of this, but the main thing is we've talked all season long about how they have 2 superpowers, right? And it goes beyond their defensive versatility. It goes beyond Derek White. It goes beyond Jaylen Brown being an all-NBA caliber player. It is the fact that they are never going to turn the ball over, and they're always going to dominate the offensive glass. And it's like they are just going to dominate the possession game because they're going to win the turnover battle and win the rebounding battle. And they've been able to win the rebounding battle pretty convincingly because Philly's not a great rebounding team. Philly is a pretty good turnover team, though, so that's like been neutralized a little bit. But what I'm getting at is when you add Jason Tatum into the lineup, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way. If you're a Jason Tatum fan, that's going to sound ugly. It's going to sound bad because I love Jason Tatum. He's a great player, and obviously the Boston Celtics are better with him on the court. But he doesn't grab offensive rebounds. And when he has the ball in his hands, he turns it over more than either Pritchard or White would when they're running the offense like it was in the regular season. Now, you need Jason Tatum to run your playoff offense, or Jaylen Brown, one or the other. Derek White and Peyton Pritchard cannot be your primary half-court creators in a playoff setting. The ceiling just isn't there. With Jason Tatum, you get a higher ceiling, but you lose the floor you established for yourself with these like rebounding and turnover advantages. Like, for example, the minutes that Tatum's eating up at the 4 now, we're going to high-energy wings who are just, their job is to crash, like Hugo Gonzalez or Jordan Walsh. Like, those guys are just going to crash. That's their job. And so you get extra possessions. Jason Tatum doesn't do that. Those touches that were going to White and Pritchard in the pick and roll are now going to Tatum, who's a little bit more turnover prone. And he's also just like very jump shot reliant at this point. I mean, he's always been very jump shot reliant, but especially now that he's still trying to get his burst back and things like that. So your floor drops, your ceiling goes way up, your floor drops. And like you said, it takes us back to the Boston of old, where it's, if you get the right swing of shooting luck, if you get hot at the right time, you can just blitz teams out of playoff games. And even the best teams, like the 2024 playoffs, they just blitz everybody, both offensively and defensively. They still got a lot of that defensive versatility. It's not the same because Horford isn't there, and he unlocked a lot of what they did throughout that playoff run. But it's the floor and ceiling argument, where once they go cold, now Philly starts to see some very winnable games. You brought up game 2, I think it was. Just tonight, I'm pretty sure they missed 16 straight shots in the fourth quarter. And they scored 11 points in the fourth to Philly's 30, or whatever it was. And they just get smoked at the end of the game. It reminds me very much of what happened in those first 2 games of the New York series. So it's weird because those are kind of my hangups, right? It's like, if your floor drops to a certain level, what does that mean? Because before Tatum, I don't think they had any chance of competing for a championship, right? They just didn't have the shot creation. They didn't have the versatility on offense. Teams were going to hone in on the Pritchard and White stuff, and it was going to be Jaylen Brown save us. But now that Tatum's in there, it feels like they're more prone to dropping playoff games to teams that they should be handily beating. Like they just have a much lower floor, but then they have this championship ceiling because once Tatum gets going, now your offense is humming. And I will say Tatum's looked phenomenal in most facets. Like, I think this is the best he's ever looked as a decision maker, as a playmaker, as a passer. Like, he is really leveled up, and he was already one of the best playmaking forwards on the planet. So Tatum's passing, Tatum's shot creation, Tatum's ability to get on the defensive glass, his defensive versatility is still very much there. Tatum's just been one of the best players in the league since he got back. The Jaylen Brown stuff is weird. I don't know how much of that is him just like losing some of the juice because teams are being more schematic and more intentional in the playoffs, or if it's just integrating Tatum whilst trying to still get your usage. Because Jaylen Brown was one of the highest usage guys of all time this year, so maybe he's just out of rhythm. Who knows what to think of that? But Derek White, the Derek White variable is the most interesting thing to me because we kind of debuted, and not debuted, I don't want to give us that much credit, but we floated this idea out there pretty consistently in our episodes this season about the idea of like value versus production. And one example we kept going back to was Derek White and the fact that he established himself as a high volume 3-point shooting threat, someone who could take 9 or 10 threes a game and make 39% of them. So this year, him dipping to 32% or 33%, but still getting up 9 or 10 a game and being defended the exact same way didn't really change his value all that much, right? Because he's on the floor for 70 possessions a game. So the one extra missed 3 pales in comparison to to the other 60 possessions where he's guarded like a 40% shooter. What's kind of scaring me is Philly is not guarding him like a 40% shooter. He's not attempting them like a 40% shooter, and his confidence just looks shot. Like he looks like there were times where he was passing up threes to drive. And it's like, well, that's not what we want from you, Derek White. And what does that look like deeper in the playoffs when a team like Cleveland goes, all right, we'll test Derek White to beat us. And now the offense actually dips from the super valuable thing that it was in the regular season that we talked about to, is it kind of hurting us? Maybe it makes more sense to go with Pritchard. And Pritchard's been awesome in this series. He's been huge for them off the bench, in large part due to his ability to pick up the slack from Derek White's offense, because Derek White isn't handling the ball as much, so the turnover suppression isn't as valuable. His very basic kind of passing reads are being honed in on, but also his passing very much relies on a vertical threat. So when you play Kata off the court, you play a lot of Derek White's playmaking strengths off the court, his pocket passes, his lob passes, his ability to just look for little pockets in the interior. So you limit his turnover suppression, you limit his playmaking. He's no longer confident shooting the three ball, and he's doing, when he does shoot it, it's inefficient. What is in Derek White's offensive game that's bringing value at this point? In this series, it's been nothing. It's been nothing. And it's like, now he's only on the court to defend. And I don't think he's this, like, he's an amazing defender, don't get me wrong. Maybe the best defensive guard in the league. But it's not the Rudy Gobert type of thing where it's like, if Derek White's on the court only for defense, we don't care because he's still going to like be a plus 20 on off guy for us, just off of defense alone. That's not what you get with Derek White. It's more so just like playing within the system. He can do his job really well. He can do a lot of things. He's really versatile, but he's not this complete anchor, game-changing defensive presence in the playoffs. So that's what's tough for me. Like if Derek White isn't an offensive factor, I'm really rethinking the shape of the East because, yeah, now you lose your offensive rebounding advantage. You lose your best rim protector. You lose your third most important player on one side of the ball. It's looking weird for Boston, man, but I do still think they get out of this series. They're still just a much better team than Philly to me. Like, we've seen the floor. I think this still, like, all it takes is a normal shooting game, and they're chilling, I think.
No shot for a Philly 3-1 comeback?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And I'll eat my words, man. I mean, it would be fun to see. And I love what Philly's got going on. I love what Embiid's doing. Also, you brought up like Embiid's lack of athleticism at this point. There was a play today where he straight up airballed a layup because he like thought he was going to jump higher. He just didn't get off the ground. So like, it's crazy that he's still dropping like 35 points in playoff games with that going on.
35 on like 61% true shooting.
Right. And it also makes me think about like, dude, we never got to see that actual like peak Embiid in the playoffs, like 2024 Embiid after he leveled up again. That like 40 game stretch. Like, would he have been a playoff god? That's kind of where I'm at because against the Knicks in that series, it was like the one eye, one leg Joel Embiid. He averaged like 35 on 60% true shooting. Now we have like Embiid who can't jump or run properly, and it's still 35 on 60% true shooting. So like, would 2024 Embiid have been a 40-point per game playoff series guy?
Was it Doc Rivers that said that Embiid is the most skilled player he's ever coached, and like everybody like threw their arms up in the air?
Yeah, because who has Doc Rivers coached? Like Tracy McGrady, Chris Paul,
T-Mac, Chris Paul,
Garnett, that whole Celtics big three, Blake Griffin.
Yeah, Giannis.
Who did he coach before Philly? He has coached Giannis.
Giannis currently. Well, okay, we're talking skill, then yeah, that's Embiid.
Ryan Rollins. Dame.
Kevin Porter Jr., why not? Dame, okay, Dame. Yeah. What, the 54 games he got of Dame last year?
You also got to keep in mind, he coached Boston KG. I think Minnesota KG would be the most skilled player of all these, but Boston KG versus Embiid in terms of skills. I don't know, dude, Embiid's a freak. Like, that's the best way of putting it. And not to go into
that's my point.
Yeah, not to go into a historical conversation, but like, I always could never wrap my head around the fact that like, we talk about alien-like players, right? Like Wemby, complete alien. Kristaps Porzingis used to be like the unicorn. That was his thing. Jokic, alien-like player. You just never see a skill set like that as a 7-footer. Rudy Gobert, alien-like defensive player. He's 7'2", 7'9" wingspan with that level of lower body mobility. It's insane. But Joel Embiid was the guy to me that never got enough credit for being an alien. He was 7'1", 300 pounds doing tween hezzy hang poles. And like, we all acted like it was normal. Like, he was handling the ball from 30 feet out like a guard, legitimately crossing over wings and going behind his back between his legs, spin moves, half spins, and drilling 18 footers at like a 50% clip. And we were all like, yeah, there's that Joel Embiid. Yeah, like, dude, he scored 70 against the Spurs and it was straight hezzy pulls the whole game. It's like, dude, he's a 7-foot guard who also still knows how to impose himself on games physically. Like he would play bully ball. The only thing to me was like, he never found a way to fuse the post game with the face up game. Like he came into the league as a post scorer and was a monstrous post scorer. Then once Doc Rivers got there, he kind of molded Joel Embiid into more of a face up middle of the floor guy. And we never got to see the post game come back and be like a fusion of I'm a post god and a face up god. It kind of was just like one or the other. But like from a pure talent perspective, from the footwork to the way he leverages his size and his body to the foul drawing craft and the touch, Joel Embiid might be the most skilled scorer I've ever seen. Like, just flat out. What he does at his size, at his peak during those, like, 2 years, it was... I've never seen anything like it, honestly. Yeah.
Embiid doesn't get thrown into a lot of the... He doesn't get thrown into enough of the what-if conversations.
Dude, he was doing that, everything I just talked about, while being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
In what, 24?
In any of those years, he was anchoring Philly to a top 3 defense. Like 2021, he could have been a Defensive Player of the Year candidate over Ben Simmons, and that I wouldn't have been mad at that. Joel Embiid's crazy. Crazy player, man. Crazy talent.
Let's head over to the Western Conference, and we'll go same way. We'll start with the 1-8, go 4-5, and then 3. I went 3-6, 2-7, so whatever. Kind of a weird way to do it, but we'll stick with that same order. So we'll end with Wemby Glaze Fest for Spurs fans. Thunder Suns. So I had this take, and anything Shea, it's not even a take. Anything Shea or OKC related is just you're asking for your mentions to get destroyed with either like yes, thank you, like the Thunder fans that are going to agree with you, and then the anti Shea stuff, which at this point, dude, like you're just ridiculous. If you cannot admit that Shea is just flat out one of the greatest scorers of all time and like is legitimately in GOAT scoring conversations, I
want to pause you. I had the thought pop up in my head. I've been working on a Shea video from the Sun series.
Again,
dude, how can you not make a video on Shea, right? Like it's like 2016 Steph. Dude, he might be, and I do not say this lightly. This is going to sound crazy coming out of my mouth. He might be the second best scorer of all time. He might be the guy. I hope anyone listening to this is in a unanimous agreement that Michael Jordan is the GOAT scorer. But after that, I think Shea's in the conversation. And I think it's because he's reached this level of inevitability. Of just the way he imposes himself on games. It's very Michael Jordan-esque. And you and I have had discussions about like why certain coverages don't work with him. Like the fact that you cannot send double teams, like what the Lakers did against KD, for example. You hard double and KD's going to get rid of the ball. And that's playing into the hands of the scheme. Shea is going to navigate the double team with a live dribble or attack in the opposite direction or attack fast. He's going to beat the double team. You zone up. He has now seen all of the looks. He knows how to process them. He's going to get to looks over the top. He's going to find those gaps. He's going to make all of the right passing reads while never turning the ball over. And I watched pretty much every possession of this Suns Thunder series over the last couple days while gathering clips for this video and while thinking about different coverages. There was a game in this series where the Suns' defensive game plan, you're familiar with the late double team strategy, right? Where a player gets into his attack, you come with a late double. The Suns, so if Shea was at the top of the key, they did the matchup zone. It was basically a 3-2 where they would box off the paint, like elbows and blocks, and then usually it was Oso Ighodaro actually at the top of the zone, showing some size, showing some length to Shea on the ball. And so if Shea was on the top of the key, that was how they set up their zone. It was like a 3-2 kind of, almost a box and one at times. If Shea got the ball in the wing, or in general, if he looked for a ball screen, the Suns were trying to ice the ball screen. They were pushing him to the sideline, pushing him away from the middle, which generally is a coverage built to get Shea to make the shovel pass to Hartenstein, right? Like we want the ball out of your hands. We're going to push you to the sideline, keep you away from the middle, make somebody else make a decision. If Shea got baseline, they didn't come with a late double, Sean. They came with a late triple. It was a late triple team. They would send a double from the top of the key and a double from the baseline. The low man would come over, and they would trap Shea on the block with 3 defenders and say, we want anybody else to beat us. Do you know what Shea's stat line was in this game, Sean?
Is this game 3?
This is game 3. He had 42 points on 83% shooting. He became just the 5th player in NBA history with a playoff game of 40 points on 80% shooting. And I think the first since Dirk in 2011. So, game 4, or actually post-game interview, game 3, Jordan Ott says, we tried everything. We tried different matchups. We tried different schemes. He had us spinning. That's what he said after the game. Game 4, there was another adjustment. They moved Dylan Brooks onto Shea, and they say, we are going to do full court ball denial. We want you face guarding Shea. Do not let him touch the ball in any scenario. Make somebody else beat us. And then when he does get the ball, we're going to continue to zone up and send late triples. So this added wrinkle of, yes, we're going to send everything to Shea, but also we're going to deny him the ball full court. You know what Shea's stat line was? 31 points and 8 assists on 71% true shooting. That's the level of player we're talking about. We are talking about a team sending triple teams, zones, denying the ball, and he finishes this series averaging 36 points per 75 on 68% true shooting. I can't stress enough how good of an offensive player this is. The OKC, by the way, in his minutes, 130 offensive rating. Phoenix was a top 10 defense in the league and looked like 5th graders trying to stop Shea. That's all I've got. That's all I've got for you. That's it. Shea is at a level right now offensively that very few players can even talk about approaching. It's insane.
So the average half court offensive rating throughout the playoffs is 94.6, and that's getting dragged down a lot by those other teams that we discussed. The Cavs are number 2. They have the second best half court offense through 4 games with a 101.9. Number 3 is they have Miami, Golden State on here. So number 3 would be Boston, 98.6. Number 4 would be the Lakers, 98.5. Number 6 would be Philly, 98.4. So to go back to that Philly-Boston series, and the half court is, it's been really neck and neck. The Oklahoma City Thunder and their 4-game series sweep against the Phoenix Suns. So this is maybe my just overarching larger takeaway, and it's a 1-8, and this is one of the best teams of all time. But I think the bigger takeaway on this series and on OKC is their half-court offensive rating against what was a top 10 defense was 112.2. They were 18 points in the half-court better than league average. Mind you, if we go just back to last season in the playoffs, Oklahoma City's offense was in the half court in the playoffs 96.8. So they are now what's that 16 points better than the own version of themselves. It's pretty simple, honestly. One, Shea's just again one of the greatest scorers of all time. But I mean, outside of that, even Chet is legitimately just a mismatch problem that can knock down the 3, play off the catch, and get downhill, make decisions. Eye hard on the glass or as a 2-man game operator. It sucks that J-Dub got hurt because J-Dub was awesome when he was out there with his playmaking, his downhill slashing ability through 2 games in this series. J-Dub averaged nearly 5 rim attempts per game and wasn't missing at the rim ever, while also contributing in the mid-range game and being a 3-level scorer. AJ Mitchell is a secondary ball handler, just stepping right in, and he had game 3 where he chucked and didn't shoot the ball well, but the threat of AJ Mitchell scoring, and they just have enough shooting now to backpedal. They shot the ball well enough in that series, but Isaiah Joe is an elite 3-point shooter. AJ Mitchell shot 45% from 3 in this series. J-Dub was shooting the ball well. Chet shot almost 40% from 3 in that series. So now you get to a point where, so on top of all the, other role player nonsense, Shea just breaks analytics because he's literally a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 2-point jump shot is mathematically literally equivalent. It's actually better than a 40% three, which is absurd. So in the current day of, oh my God, analytics it's asinine to me. I think the people that want to like hate on analytics also don't like Shea, because if you're like, oh man, analytics is ruining the game, there needs to be more mid-range jump shots. Dude, Shea is breaking analytics in a playoff series and being one of the greatest 2 points just scorers in general. And going back to your last year video, again, go watch it. He just gets all the easy stuff too, because he's elite in transition on top of all the half court stuff. So God forbid Shea has a bad half court offensive game, he's still not going to turn the ball over, and he's going to be elite in transition, and he's going to get to the foul line. So Shea and Chet is one of the best like offensive engines and defensive anchors we've seen. I'm just gonna say in recent it's them and then Steph and Draymond in the past decade.
Yeah. It's crazy, yeah, because like it's crazy everything we just talked about with Shea boosting them to a 112 half court offensive rating, a 130 offensive rating. By the way, they had a 128 offensive rating in the series, and they shot below their season average from three. So it's not even shooting luck. It's just, they're just that good. They shot like 61% on 2-pointers. All of that is secondary to their defense still. They're still like the best defense of all time relative to era. That's just the added bonus with this OKC team, I guess. They're going to force turnovers. They're pretty flawless. I mean, there's nothing that needs to be said about OKC's defense that we haven't already said on pretty much every episode we've talked about them. They're just absurdly versatile. I think OKC is the favorite to win a title if J-Dub doesn't play another game in these playoffs.
They've been my favorite all year, and they were without J-Dub for. I mean, granted, we've been talking about them getting J-Dub back the entire time, but yeah, with J-Dub at 70%, without J-Dub, I think they're just the best team in the league. I think they've been the best team in the league all year.
That's what it is, and it's like
there's only one team I think that has a chance to beat OKC. I'm very clearly at that point. That's the only team.
Yeah, well, what's weird is like I feel like the one hang up we've always had with OKC is like Shea isn't this super advanced playmaker, and they don't have a ton of shot creation outside of him without J-Dub. So it's like maybe there's things in the playoffs that can really limit them. But I think Shea has just like leveled up as a processor, as a decision maker, as a shot maker. Even he made 50% of his mid-range shots in that series against Phoenix, and it was like all difficult mid-range jumpers, nothing easy. I think he can do enough like offensive floor raising to just that's really not a problem anymore. Like I think in a San Antonio series, Shea is just going to get his game off. He's going to be just fine, and they're going to get stops. And so I just think, yeah, I really think Shea has leveled up to this echelon of all-time great offensive players, which he was already like an all-time great offensive player last year, and he's probably 2 tiers up right now from where he was at last year. He's just a completely different player. It's like the last 3 games. Remember the last 3 games of the Denver series where it was like Shea solved the zone? That's how I feel with Shea every game now. It's like, ooh, Shea solved. He solved basketball. That's what he solved. There's nothing you can do to limit him. He's like, you can't deny the ball. You can't zone up. You can't double. You can't bother him with length, physicality, quickness. It doesn't matter. He's just going to get his game off. He's going to impose himself on every game. It's insane stuff. It's absolutely absurd stuff. And you brought up Chet's offensive leap. He's been awesome. And he's, like you said, a big mismatch problem. AJ Mitchell's been awesome. Isaiah Joe, like you said, not only can shoot the 3, but can also defend. They didn't even have to go to Jared McCain at all, and probably won't for most of the playoffs. That's kind of just like stashed for their future. Yeah, OKC's nasty. On the Phoenix side of things, I've seen a lot of talk about the Devin Booker stuff and like the weird variable with his archetype being like an off wing, forced into a number 1 role and looking to pass first instead of scoring now. There is a weird thing, like Booker definitely feels like notches below where he was a couple of years ago, just in terms of his offensive process. I don't know if it's, like I said, a mental shift being moved to the point guard and being asked to play make more, or if it's like a loss of athleticism as an already kind of limited burst guy, explosive guy. He had a really rough series, like wasn't really getting shots up. Like I'm pretty sure Dylan Brooks was their leading scorer, which shout out to Brooks because he actually like caused Chet some serious problems with that matchup. One-on-one, working in the mid post and getting to his bump middies and all that. Colin Gillespie, I think, did you can't do a good job on Shea, but like he at least was like there for the most part, pressuring the ball, fighting over screens, making plays with his hands. He had a couple high steal games. So Iguodala to me was pretty impressive. I think he needs to be more aggressive, more assertive, looking for buckets when he's a playmaking hub in the middle of the floor. He has to be at least somewhat of a threat, so OKC can't just hone in on that. But him as a playmaker in the middle of the floor, dribble handoff guy, play finisher, and then his ability to switch on defense. Like I said, he was at the top of Phoenix's zone. So he's a really impressive young player to me. We didn't get to see Jordan Goodwin in the series, unfortunately, because of the injury. That kind of sucks. He's an awesome player to me. And also, like, Jordan Goodwin to me, man, not to rain on your parade, and maybe we could transition this into a Lakers conversation because I don't really have too much else to add on Phoenix. Imagine what LA would look like with Jordan Goodwin and Marcus Smart.
And they could have had them both.
They could have had them both.
They willingly let Jordan Goodwin go. My only other part on Phoenix would be I would very seriously invest in getting another like lead point guard and just see if we could just buy back in on Devin Booker just being scoring off guard.
What does that look like though? Like, do you move Jalen Green? Do you move Colin Gillespie? Do you move Dylan Brooks?
Colin Gillespie. I would think you move Jalen Green.
Yeah,
that's why I get it. You got off KD and got come on Mario Watch, who's going to be a big piece of your future. You're hoping him and Oso Iguodala as your center, as your front court rotation is interesting, and I like
Rasheer
that going
Fleming
forward.
Too.
Rasheer Fleming, yeah.
Guys.
So I like their front court depth going forward. Honestly, like I low key think Phoenix is in a good spot to where they make a couple moves and like because I think their front court depth is good. I think their depth in general, like I like Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Gillespie, Dylan Brooks. I think honestly, just get Jalen Green just feels like the odd guy out, and I don't know what you have to do and what options you have to get another like point guard table setting type of guy in here. But Jalen Green does kind of feel like the odd piece because with Jalen Green, Devin Booker, and Dylan Brooks, Devin Booker is going to have to resort to being your table setter, which is just not the correct role for Devin Booker.
Yeah. So what kind of guys would you target then? Are there any like a Fred VanVleet type maybe?
Dude, Fred would be freaking awesome.
Fred's one of those guys. Obviously, Fred's one of those guys that I was like when it's every team in the league would be like, man, we just need a Fred VanVleet type to set up our offense and space the floor. Like he's one of those guys where you can just fit him onto any team. Like the like Kyle Lowry a few years ago. Yeah, is there anyone else who comes to mind in terms of point guards? AJ Mitchell would be pretty freaking awesome.
AJ Mitchell would actually low-key be good.
Ryan Rollins, that's a guy. That'd be awesome.
This is gonna happen, but like he kind of did this year. The like name that popped into my head was Andrew Nembhard.
I see the vision. And you keep up your point of attack defense with Nembhard.
Yeah.
Darius Garland.
Yeah.
Nah, it's tough though. You're paying Booker $70 million for like 4 more years.
Yeah. I forgot about the $70 million variable.
Tough, man. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they blow it up. Honestly, like I don't think they're in a bad spot, but like I also wouldn't be surprised if they are like the Booker era has run its course. Let's build out with this young core. And try to get some assets for Booker. Because the one thing about Booker that will always be a superpower is his role flexibility on offense. Like he can play any role, especially as an off-ball weapon. Like his ability to play off the catch, spot up and shoot, go on the move, his screen setting, his mismatch attacking, and the fact that we know he's going to buy in defensively in any playoff setting. I think Booker is a guy that other teams would definitely look at and be like, this guy can swing us into a championship type of direction. What team is willing to pull that trigger? I don't know. Is it Miami?
Detroit, thoughts. It's not going to happen, but thoughts.
That's one guy that he's a guy that I've seen floated around with Cade. Like, but I do think there's a lot of I do think Cade and Booker clash a little bit with the fact that both of them are so mid-range dominant. And neither of them are elite slashers or elite pull-up three-point shooters. I do think there's a little bit of a clash. But also, they're both so skilled offensively, and they're both like capable of playing off ball, so I wouldn't be surprised if it worked and if a team went in that direction. I can't really think of any other teams. Like I don't really see a Minnesota fit making any sense. Golden State, of course, but like Golden State, what assets and what contract? How are they going to make that work with D Book? Like I don't think Milwaukee would be like one last shot with Giannis and go for Devin Booker. I don't know. I don't know. Miami to me feels like the team. They're always the team that's like I could see them doing this. They're just always there. Orlando could be like if you move off of one of Franz or Paulo.
Are you moving off of Paulo? And it's like Suggs, D Bane, D Book, Franz, and Wendell.
You lose a lot of size then, though.
Yeah.
Because like size is a superpower for that team, but they're also not going to win a championship with this roster build, in my opinion. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see for sure. Let's go to Lakers Rockets. Okay. I kind of alluded to it. I alluded to Marcus Smart being a god. That's kind of where I want to start the conversation. Marcus Smart is so good, and you brought him up when we did our underrated players list. And my only pushback was, is he actually underrated? Like everyone kind of recognizes how good Smart is. We underrated him. He is way better than anyone thought he is. Obviously, when the 3-point shot is dropping, that's always been a volatile part of his game because he'll get 6 or 7 threes up a game, and he gets hot, he gets cold sometimes. He's just always going to get them up regardless. What stood out to me is he's every bit of his defensive player of the year self. And you could talk about whether or not you think he deserved the defensive player of the year or not. That caliber of defender was one of the best defensive guards of all time. And it feels like that's the Marcus Smart we've seen in the playoffs with his versatility in terms of man defense, like switching across the board. The fact that he's making plays at the rim against bigs, the fact that he's forcing like 6 turnovers every game, just his activity, his hands, his effort. He's always the first on every loose ball. His pressure has been immense. Marcus Smart defensively, just world-class stuff. And then on offense, without Luka or Reeves, he stepped into this primary point guard role. He's the number 1 guy in touches, and he's the guy bringing the ball up the court. And he's had an amazing connection with LeBron, unlike those backdoor cuts and getting him the ball in his spots in the post and just being an initiator in that way. But he's also gotten everyone involved, like whether it's in transition, whether it's coming off a pick and roll and running the 2-man game with either Ayton or Hayes, whether it's a skip pass to a shooter, making the quick extra passes to connect the offense out of LeBron's post-ups, playing out of the short roll as a guard-to-guard screener. Marcus Smart's offensive versatility as a playmaker, as a decision maker, as even a slasher in this series, like getting downhill when the 3-point shot's working, along with the defense, just makes him this superstar caliber impact player. And Marcus Smart is one of those guys that should be mentioned. If we're talking about like the Derek Whites, the OG Anunobys, the Fred VanVleets I brought up, the Alex Caruso's, like this is the type of conversation we're talking about with Marcus Smart. So yeah, that's my spiel. You got anything on Smart or the Lakers in general?
I think that on Smart, man, he's just the ultimate like he's just the ultimate winner. Like I think he just does all the winning stuff, all like consistently all the time. And just his impact on the Lakers. Like I cannot stress this enough. Not even because of like the shooting or the playmaking or whatever the case may be. Replace him with a random average role player on this team doing the exact same stuff, and this is 3-1 Houston. It's just all the winning plays, like the fact that he gets back into play when LA Berry were like low key just about to mail in Game 3. They were right there. They were so close, ready to phone it in. You know what? We'll just get ready for Game 4. And Marcus Smart, off of an ill-advised pass by Jabari Smith, gets the steal and forces a foul, and he hits his 3 free throws. I mean, just every time it's time to make a winning play, it's felt like in this series, Marcus Smart's been there, and he's been one of the guys that has all year just lifted morale. Like his relationship with DeAndre Ayton as well, like in the locker room, has been really, really important for this team. I hit him and LeBron as LeBron is not the same defender that he once was very clearly, but LeBron still has like a gear defensively come playoff time. And I think this has been super consistent since 23. LeBron has pretty consistently had another gear. I'll even say I think 23 was fine, but he was injured. That was more of an AD defensive run. So I'll say 24 when they lost to Denver in round 1. LeBron was good in that series defensively. And then, since then, I don't think LeBron was bad last year, even in the playoffs. I actually would say LeBron was pretty good defensively. He's probably the lone positive Laker defender in that Minnesota Timberwolves series last season. And then this series as well. So the fact that they've been able to kudos to JJ, man. I think JJ hasn't gotten enough credit for the coaching job he's done in general over the past 2 seasons, because all he's done is coach the Lakers to 250-win seasons. Learned pretty quickly, I think, from last year's mistake in the playoff from a schematic standpoint. And the 2 biggest reasons I wholeheartedly feel the 2 biggest reasons why LA's up 3-1 is, one, I think DeMarcus Smart and just the role player production, like between Smart, Rui, and Luke Kennard. Rui's more shot making, but Rui has very clearly had his best playoff series as a Laker. I know some Laker fans pushed back on that when I said that. I said Denver in 23 is up there. I think Rui's all around impact in this series trumps that, in my opinion. No, they didn't say Denver. I think they said Memphis. It was one of those 23 series.
It was Memphis for sure. He was lights out in that series.
But yeah, he just couldn't miss in that series. Like, in terms of all around impact, I think this is Rui's best series as a Laker.
I agree.
Kennard shot making, like, that's been, the secondary playmaking he's been able to do.
Playmaking too, like just Kennard in general being and basically just Austin Reeves Jr. without him.
But the other thing is, I think JJ is just out coached Ime Udoka. Like, those are the two biggest reasons why the Lakers are up 3-1 in this series. When it's been time to press the right buttons, I don't think JJ's been perfect, but I think when it's been time to press the right button, JJ has pretty consistently pressed the correct button, where flipping sides to Houston. Okay, I don't want to compare myself as a coach to Ime Udoka as a coach, but there is a common threat, needle here that I think doesn't matter and doesn't change regardless of what level it is if I'm playing a team, and this is the second or third or fourth time, okay, if there's anything I could take, I'm going to watch. I'm going to go back and see if there's anything that I could prepare my guys for going into the upcoming matchup, right? Think of it like a playoff series currently or whatever. How in God's name for game 2 do you not go back and see that when you played the Lakers a month ago with Luka and AR, and you have Kevin Durant, and in the fourth quarter, KD takes one shot because they were just sending high doubles at him, and you lose that game basically because your half-court offense went to shit in the fourth quarter because they just started doubling KD and you had no clue what to do. And you go an entire game, more specifically the second half, because KD got his early in game 2. You go in, so I'll be generous. You go an entire second half, and your best player, your half-court initiator, your half-court offense essentially, gets 2 shots in the second half of game 2? That is where it's okay, there's just clear lack of preparation, and that cost them a playoff game. This series is completely different right now if it's 2-2. If it's 2-2 going back to LA, or shoot, if you're a Rockets fan, not to make you guys feel any worse, your lack of preparation and just better late game management away from being up 3-1 in this series. And that's just the obvious fact, but that's where, again, JJ and the Laker role players and LeBron and stuff like that just taking I don't think the Lakers have done anything spectacular. They've just, for the most part, consistently played harder, been smarter, and have hit shots. And that's kind of been the story of the series, I feel like.
Yeah. My question to you, though, is how would you have approached the KD double team stuff? Because I feel like a lot of that has to do with just the fact that they don't have the roster for it, and also Kevin Durant and his own limitations dealing with double teams. The fact that he's not going to put the ball down to escape it, get to his spots. The fact that he's not going to make any advanced skip passes. He only attempted 1 skip pass the entire game, and it was a turnover. So it's I understand where you're coming from, but also they were completely denying him the ball full court. They were switching every action aggressively and pushing him to the top of the key, only letting him catch the ball in front of them, then immediately hard doubling. And it's what would you have done if you were game planning for that scheme?
So they're sending the high doubles off of, I have to go back to, let's see what Synergy really quickly has on KD play type data from game 2.
It was just straight top of the key. They were pushing him to the top of the key and he was catching the ball at the 3-point line or above, like at the logo, and that was it. That's where he got all of his touches.
Okay,
I don't even know if it would be classified as a play type because he didn't do anything. He just stood there.
KD had 2 off-screen scoring possessions in game 2. The first thing that came to my mind is I'm using Şengün probably as a corner pin down screener for KD. And if you want to be super aggressive on the catch, then Kevin Durant, for the love of God, make a short roll pocket pass to Şengün off the catch, because now if you want to just deny me, then I can be a screener, and now it's a men getting downhill. So like the way I'm viewing it is a man at the top, Jabari spaced right corner, Kevin Durant coming off a pin down from the left corner, and the Lakers are probably going to try to jam it.
It just switched everything.
Okay, well then Kevin Durant come off. Now, if you want to switch that, Şengün has the opportunity to just seal you off over the top in theory. Or Kevin Durant just rise up over you, and he couldn't. So
that's what I'm saying. That's why I think a lot of it is a player issue. Like, a lot of it is a player issue, too, because not only do they not have the spacing to, like, stress the help in those situations, Şengün could not capitalize on those advantages. Like, he's not a vertical finishing threat. He couldn't attack any mismatches because all of LA's wings are big and sturdy. So, like, Şengün couldn't play his style of bully ball. And that's what a lot of the possessions devolved into. It was like KD gets the big switched onto him, get the ball to Şengün, and he just could not win his matchups against these smaller players. And I think, yes, there is a coaching concern there where just in terms of not being prepared, not playing Reed Sheppard at all in that game to me is weird because like Reed Sheppard's been very bad in the series. Don't get me wrong, but like he has to be guarded. That's literally just him having to be guarded would have changed so much against those double teams in short roll opportunities. But I think it trickles down into everything. Like I think that the fact that they don't have shooters, the fact that they don't have great decision makers, the fact that Kevin Durant couldn't even read those double teams well at all, despite seeing them for the 50th time in a row. To me, it was just a very weird game. In the rest of the series, I really felt like you brought it up. Houston's half court offense has been a disaster, but it's like my big kind of takeaway is LA just has to take care of the ball, man. Houston's killing them on the glass, like just dominating the offensive rebounding, and they're also dominating the turnovers. And it's like, if you're going to grab a ton of second chances and you're going to give them 20 opportunities with turnovers, they don't have to shoot good to win these games. And that's why they've been in position to win multiple games, despite the fact that they cannot score the ball in the half court. Am I doing to say Şengün kind of leveling up mid-series is a big deal? He's definitely like playing a lot better than he was at the beginning, using his size, using his skill as a post scorer to kind of create openings, and they've been running a lot more through him with KD out. Amen Thompson has been unbelievable in this series. The conditioning level it takes to move as much as he does on both sides of the ball and still play like 45 minutes a game at a high level and close these games with energy. Amen Thompson is just an absolute freak athlete. And he, to me, like him and Marcus Smart, to me, have been the two MVPs of this series. And it's been the guys who are just like the masters of the little things. So, yeah, that's kind of my takeaway on the Houston side of things. I want to pull up real quick the on-off numbers for Amen Thompson. And this is just more of like a fun fact stat because these sample sizes are absurd. But in 159 minutes with Amen Thompson on the court, they have a +6 net rating in this series. They are outscoring the Lakers by 6 points per 100 possessions in this series with Amen Thompson on the court. He's only sat 20 minutes. So he's playing, 44 minutes a game? Because that's an average, 45 minutes a game even, because that's only 5 minutes a game he's on the bench. Guess what Houston's net rating is with Amen Thompson on the bench?
-9.
-55.
I was trying to big math that.
-55 net rating. And it's like, obviously, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Like, the Lakers are shooting 62% from three during those minutes, which not exactly sustainable. But it is something that you notice, like, when you watch the game. Like, if Amen Thompson goes out, they don't know what to do. He's the only guy who can, like, actually like, get downhill, handle the ball, make decisions, get on the offensive glass, defend, like, do all these things. They just lose so much when he goes out. So, Amen Thompson, to me, awesome playoff series from him. Just really, really valuable player for Houston's future and present. Şengün kind of leveling up. But Yeah. Is there any worry in your heart about like the Lakers blowing the 3-0?
No, this is where the we got Braun tax kicks in.
Yeah. Yeah. Game 4 was a gimmick game from Braun, I think. Although I am worried, like, his body is clearly like gonna
He's
break
gassed.
down. Like, yeah, he's
like this
he's
is the best time possible for them to get a two real days off, and you're probably gonna get AR back. AR coming back, he can shoot 2 for 15. For the love of God, he's just gonna be somebody else that can handle the ball. Like, I do not need Austin Reeves to come back and drop 20. I need Austin Reeves to give me 20 minutes of ball handling. It would be okay.
What do you make of the Luka? Is Luka gonna play in the second round?
I didn't even I saw a lot of aggregations of what was said. I didn't watch the actual clip.
That's what I saw too, and I couldn't find like an actual source of like Shams saying that, and then I also heard like Shams deleted it because it was misworded, or something like that.
That was the other thing I saw. So I never actually saw what Shams said.
So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, granted, with Luka and Reeves at full strength, do you think LA would have a chance against OKC?
They can't guard, so Shea's just gonna have 50 on 70% true shooting.
Yeah, that's the tough part of it. I
think it'd be a better series than maybe I think. I don't think it would be just like a sweep. It'd be like
they'll get a
cool
game,
5
maybe.
or 6.
I think 5. I think 5's a good number. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it was a dominant sweep. That's kind of the level OKC's at right now. Without J-Dub, I'll give the Lakers a game though. I'll give him a game. My last question for you in this series is regarding Houston. Where do you go from here? Do you just run it back with Van Vliet and Adams? Because I
feel
do
that's
think
the direction they're
that
gonna
would
go.
make them a lot better. It wouldn't fix.
Did you see my tweet? Game 2, they got like so properly. Like, it's Laker fans, so I mean, grain of salt. But I literally said something to that extent. I'm like, dog, if there isn't an example of like a team missing their point guard and how like detrimental that is. Like, Fred VanVleet makes this team a legitimate title contender.
And I don't know why everyone's like Fred VanVleet's not that good, but it's not about how good he is. It's about how important he is to making everything else with Houston function. Same with Steven Adams. Like, yeah, the shooting isn't as much of a problem when you've got a guy who's going to grab 7 offensive rebounds every game. That's just the reality of the situation. It's weird because like I do see the vision with that, but then I'm also like VanVleet and Adams don't all of a sudden make you able to score in the half court. Like, you still have to score in the half court, and they clearly can't against playoff defenses. Yeah, pretty much. This man's been up for too long. It's getting too late. No, but yeah, do you is there anyone you're looking? I think they would probably have to start moving off of some of these defensive wings, like young guys, and be like, look, like we know,
Tari.
we love Tyrese, we love Jabari Smith, we love even Reed Shepard. Like, Reed Shepard's not a defensive wing, but I do think like this is where you have to look and make a decision. Like, is the core going to be this iteration of the team with Van Vliet, KD, and Adams, or is it going to be an iteration of the team with Amen Thompson, Şengün, a bunch of defensive wings, and then you kind of have to choose because they're in a weird 2 timeline space right now where they're clearly not good enough to compete for anything yet, but like they don't have a lot of time with KD and then Van Vliet being a small guard coming back from an ACL. Who even knows what that's going to look like? I will say my last point on the Rockets, Steven Adams, ultimate floor raiser. Like I don't think people realize how impactful of a player he is. He did the same thing in Memphis, where it was like he made them the 50-win team pretty much. Well, as soon as Adams was gone, everyone was like, oh, they lost the culture with Dylan Brooks. No, they lost Steven Adams as a screen setter and as a rebounder, and their offense just sucked from then on. Like, they just could not score anymore. So Steven Adams, very, very good basketball player. I hope he's back to normal. You want to go to, we'll go to Wolves Nuggets. Where is your head at in that series? What are your thoughts? It's a very weird series.
One, rivalries are back. They've been back. A lot of weirdness, like you said, going on from this series. You got the David Adelman comments, like his post-game presser the other night. It's weird because like that's kind of not been David Adelman. Like, it just, I don't know. It just doesn't fit him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
the Jay McDaniel stuff, which I love. I love the Jay McDaniel stuff. I think that is hilarious. I think it's awesome as a competitor. Like, hell yeah. We need more of that. I need more of that in my NBA. I need more WWE isms in my NBA. I need to feel real backstage brawl potential when Denver and Minnesota is about to play in a playoff series. Well, for one, if there's a playoff series that I would feel the strongest on a team coming back 3-1, it's very clearly this one. And it's just simply because, like, Ant's out. And no Dante either, which just kills Minnesota. The one thing about that, though, that kind of makes me hesitate just enough on feeling confident in that take is Minnesota's defense has just been phenomenal all series long. And the fact that Denver can't hit a jump shot, to say the life. And specifically, this is the Jokic take I'm going to get off. I'm not going to have this overreaction, be like, oh, Jokic is...
Rewrite his entire prime like everyone on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to do that. What I will do with Jokic, though, is I will say that throughout Jokic's prime in the playoffs, it does kind of feel like how elite Denver's offenses in the playoffs can continue to be does start to predicate a little bit more on does Jokic's jump shot continue to fall in the playoffs. You go back to 2023, which is easily Jokic's best playoff run, for sure. That is one of the best individual playoff runs of the past 20 years. Like, Jokic's 2023 playoff run would be within the top 10 probably. I think anybody that disagrees with that is insane, okay? And I'm not even...
seeds, dude.
I mean, they did. Hey, I'm just saying, chat. And mind you, I'm not even resident Jokic stan, okay? But that's one of the 10 best individual playoff scoring runs or offensive runs over the past 2 decades or so. Since then, you have the following season where that's
the Minnesota.
That's LA round 1, Minnesota round 2. And in that playoff, you know what? Let's just go back to the title run really quickly. Jokic on 3-point jump shots, 46% on threes, 43% on mid-range twos in that series. Good for 1.21 points per shot attempt on all jump shots in the title run, which is just ridiculous. The following season, the playoffs, 0.87 points per shot attempt. And last season, solid efficiency. And then so far this season, he is shooting 0.6 points per shot attempt, 19% from 3, 33% from 2, to the point where he's actively passing up on some of these threes now too, where some of the possessions Minnesota just does a really good job defensively, and the only quality shot left is a Jokic 3. And Jokic will turn it down because he's not shooting it well and proceeds to try to get into other action. And now you're shooting a tough shot because you didn't take the open one, which was Jokic's open shot. And then you add on top of that just the stuff that Rudy Gobert has done in general in one-on-one scenarios, where I don't have the one-on-one Rudy Gobert Jokic data in front of me. I'm not going to find it either. I know, like our eyes have said, and Rudy has done a phenomenal job. So the fact that you can't even consistently stretch Rudy out defensively, pause, because of the jump shooting ability just not being there, now you get to a point where offensively, Denver's offense in the playoffs has been very mediocre in the half court. They're scoring they have a 96 offensive rating in the half court, 96.7, and Minnesota's is 96.6.
So to add on to that too, they're coming off of a scorching game 5, so that's like really boosting it. In games 3 and 4, they didn't even break 100 points in either of them. They were at 96 points in both games.
Yeah, we were getting Spencer Jones getting unconscious on corner threes in game 5 at home, and they're still barely above Minnesota in half court offensive rating, and overall on actually offensive rating in the entire playoffs. Minnesota's 113, Denver's 109. So Like that, I think that is where my Jokic take would come from. Whereas Jokic and Denver's offense in general, like, okay, let's go back to last season even. I'm just curious. And last season they faced one of the greatest defense of all time, and we would both agree with that. Okay, their half court points per possession was in the gutter, but they still scored damn near 111 points per possession. Not points per possession, good God. They had a 111 offensive rating in the playoffs last year, which is, what, 5, 4? I already forgot where they're at this year, but better than what it is this year, and that's them facing one of the best defenses of all time. So that's my Jokic take that I would get off on the series.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert's really thrown off Jokic's rhythm, not just with the jumper, but like even the post-up stuff, just like the way he's moved his body to cut off different angles, the way he's absorbing contact and holding his ground. He's constantly swiping at the ball, and he's just throwing off Jokic's timing, and Jokic keeps throwing up these awkward kind of off-balance shots in the paint. Granted, Game 5, he looked a lot more surgical, a lot more poised with Rudy's pressure, and it looks like he's maybe starting to figure some stuff out in the one-on-one situations. Like you said, Denver's shot making was kind of amazing in Game 5, like Spencer Jones. Also, though, and this is why I think Denver can pull off the 3-1 comeback, even more so than like Minnesota losing maybe their two most important offensive players in the series, and we'll talk about that in a sec. They finally figured out how to unlock the paint. So in Game 1, Jokic has this playmaking masterclass. They're lifting Rudy Gobert. It's all the problems you would expect with putting Rudy on Jokic. Rudy gets lifted up to Jokic. They are just spamming off-ball action, taking advantage of unattentive off-ball defense, taking advantage of an open paint, and just layups and dunks. Then the help starts to over-index on the layups and dunks, and you end up taking, I think it was 23 wide-open threes in Game 1. Jokic has this like 12 assist game. They have a 120 offensive rating or whatever. They win Game 1. And it's like, yeah, Minnesota has a problem they need to figure out with Rudy on Jokic. Then for the rest of the series, it's been fully commit to the paint in every situation. So like leave Christian Brown, leave Spencer Jones, even leave Aaron Gordon at times, leave Bruce Brown, like leave these guys, ignore them, only guard the paint, and then switch all of the off-ball action. But then also Rudy, we want you dropping back against every ball screen, prioritize the paint. We want you roaming off of Jokic in off-ball situations. Make Jokic take threes. And then he's shooting like 1 for 8, 2 for 10 on three-pointers, like you kind of alluded to. And so it's like, now they've shut off the paint. Now they've made Jokic a jump shooter. Jamal Murray has really struggled with the pressure from Jaden McDaniels and getting around screens, and his jump shot's been gone as well. He's not getting to the rim at all. And then in Game 5, Denver found a way to unlock the paint again. They were playing faster. They were playing deliberate. They were getting more into those off-ball actions again. They were spamming inverted ball screens in early offense situations to catch Rudy off balance in a backpedal and things like that. They were setting, like, the screening angles were a little bit different. They were kind of angling them as down screens to give Jokic a head of steam, force some help, find cutters. Jokic goes for 16 assists, and Denver drops 125 points. That's kind of the Jokic I expect in this series. It's kind of the Nuggets I expect in this series, and it feels like they're starting to figure some stuff out at the right time. And the reason I think it will work or could work to come back 3-1 is because it's in addition to the stuff on the other side of the ball, where I don't really know what to make of Denver's defense in this series, right? Because it's like there are obvious problems. This is the first time, actually, I will say, so the Jokic has been the most polarizing defender in basketball since like 2021. Back then, back in 2021, it was a foregone conclusion that you could not win a title with him as your center because of the defensive limitations at the most important position. And then Chris Paul in the 2021 playoffs puts him in 50,000 ball screens and averages like 30 and 10 in the Western Conference semifinals, and they sweep Denver. But that was also a Denver team that was very injured. 2022, same thing. He goes up against Curry and Poole, who are just doing 40-foot ball screens and just spamming deep threes and just torching Jokic 30 feet out. Again, ravaged Denver team with none of their starters playing Facu Campazzo and Monte Morris, and Jokic gets attacked defensively. It happens. Then you get 2023, and I remember the sentiment. There were 3 regular season games where they just didn't care at the end of the season, and it was like a foregone conclusion again that Jokic is gonna be put in the pick and roll in the playoffs. It was Minnesota. He's not gonna be able to stop Anthony Edwards. Then it was Phoenix. It was Kevin Durant and Booker are gonna put him in every pick and roll. Then it was the Lakers. LeBron and AD are gonna put him in pick and roll. pickle roll. LeBron and AD are just going to put him in pick and roll. The only team that they didn't get talked about with was Miami. But it didn't work. Denver was able to shell up. They were able to protect Jokic. He did a really good job playing at the level of screens, especially in the Phoenix series. Like, he did a really good job of playing at the level of screens and forcing turnovers and things like that. And so that narrative kind of got dispelled. But there was also always that crowd that was hanging on to this idea that Jokic was this drastically negative defender who got lucky. Then in the 2024 first round, that was the first time I had the thought of like, okay, Jokic's defense looks problematic here. Like, LeBron and AD were really just like having an easy time in the pick and roll. But then in the fourth quarters, Jokic notched up his motor. And in those fourth quarters, LA couldn't score. And it was like, okay, Jokic still has that gear in the playoffs. And then the Minnesota series, I think he was fine defensively. Last year's playoffs, I think he was actually very good defensively against the Clippers. That was probably the best defensive series of his career. Very active, good on the glass, picking up deflections. OKC, when they got into that matchup zone, I think he just did a good job of clogging lanes, getting on the glass, not problematic anywhere. This has been the next series that I've looked at and been like, wow, his defense looks really problematic. Like, Minnesota has made it very clear, a point of emphasis in their game plan. When we see Jokic, we are straight line driving right at him and we're going at the rim every single time. And they've created so many points in the paint, so many layups and dunks, so many opportunities in early offense transition situations. They've dominated the offensive rebounding battle because Van Jokic isn't in position to rebound if he has to help. And I kind of had two thoughts. I was like, okay, this is a problem. This is a clear problem. Like, Jokic can't stop anyone in the paint right now. It feels like he's a negative defender. Also, you have no Peyton Watson in this series, and Aaron Gordon's missed 2 games. Those are your 2 best rim protectors. So it's like, yes, I can fault Jokic for giving up a lot of points in the paint, but also when if Jokic is your lone rim protector, no one thinks that's going to be a good defense. Like, who's the secondary rim protector? Christian Brown? Cam Johnson? It's like, yeah, obviously that's not going to be a good paint defense, no matter what. I think if Peyton Watson and Aaron Gordon are in there, this looks a lot different. And so it's like, I have this feeling like it's problematic. I see the injuries, and then I see the fact that Minnesota hasn't had a good offense in this series. They have like what would you say, 113 offensive rating, 96 offensive rating in the half court, which isn't bad, but it's like average. And so I'm like, is it that problematic? And Denver, when they get into these zone looks, they are good at deterring shots, right? Like just taking away drives, forcing other guys to make decisions. And this is why I think Dante DiVincenzo's injury is so important, because he's the one guy they could put in that slot and be like, if you come with nail help, this guy has one of the quickest releases in the league, and he shoots from 30 feet out above the break. And it's good freaking luck rotating out of that and running DiVincenzo off the line. And now that he's gone, now that your number one guy driving in the gaps is gone, and Denver's already had a good defense in this series, I think there's still the prospect of Peyton Watson coming back too. Like, the original report said game 6 or 7. I don't know where he's at right now. I haven't looked into that, but okay. I think Denver has a lot working for them at the right time. I think they've started to figure some stuff out. Still just takes one game from Minnesota. Just one of these 2 games, close it out. But I do think, like, with the injuries and with the way this series has played out, this is the one that I look at and I'm like, this probably feels like a 3-1 comeback to me. But I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't.
Last thing that I just want to add is Ayo Dosunmu is just freaking awesome, bro. 5 rim attempts per game, shooting like 84% at the rim, which is just absurd. Taking over 4 threes a game, shooting it over a 50% clip. Taking 4 free throw attempts per game, and on a per 75 basis, about 5 free throw attempts per game. Ayo is just awesome. One of the best pickups at the deadline.
The other thing with Denver is, or with Minnesota, sorry, is that DiVincenzo, like the DiVincenzo injury, he's the only guy on the team that forces turnovers. And so without him, Denver does not turn the ball over. They have like an absurdly low turnover percentage in this series. I think it's 11% over the entire series, which is like all-time great stuff. And it's just a result of the fact that Minnesota cannot force turnovers, which means they then can't get out in transition, which I think is a big reason why the offensive rating is what it is. Just looking at the series, DiVincenzo was averaging 1.8 steals per game. Bruce Brown was second in the series at 1.6 steals per game. Then it was Rudy Gobert, another Timberwolf player, 1.4 steals per game. After that, in the steals per game leaderboard in the series, so you've got DiVincenzo in first, Rudy Gobert in third. Then you have Jokic, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, Jamal Murray, Zeke Naji, Spencer Jones, Tim Hardaway Jr. Then all the way at, I believe that is 11th, is Bones Highland at 0.6 steals per game. Mike Conley, 0.6. Yohan Beringer is next, 0.5 steals. Julian Phillips, 0.5 steals. I would assume 0.4. The only guy averaging more than half a steal a game is Rudy Gobert without DiVincenzo. And it's like, if you can't force turnovers, you are in a weird spot because now Denver feels like they're starting to figure out the shot making. So are they just going to blitz them for a 130 offensive rating over the next 2 games? I don't know. But yeah, that to me is a problem. And that actually is something that needs to be addressed. Like, they need guys who can force turnovers because Edwards doesn't force turnovers. McDaniels doesn't force turnovers. Randall doesn't force turnovers. And DiVincenzo does, but like, he can't single-handedly carry that. And with the lack of a point guard, with the lack of a half-court offensive presence at times, not being able to get out in transition off of turnovers is just like a clear thing that separates Minnesota from the rest of the contenders like San Antonio, OKC. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel. One more series, speaking of San Antonio versus the Blazers, kind of expected. I had the Spurs sweeping. They end up losing that game that Wemby gets a concussion in, and I feel like they probably sweep if he's out there. You have any strong thoughts on this series?
No, I mean, like, God, Portland's offense it was a rough watch, and we knew that going in. Yeah, we knew how bad Portland's offense was going to be. I think the one thing that is interesting at the very least when talking about San Antonio, and if you look at the regular season, we'll go since January 1st. I'm actually curious. Since January 1st, Portland was a top 5 half-court defense. And the fact that, and granted, all the data hasn't been fully updated yet, so this is through the first 4 games. The fact that Castle, Harper are still like, yeah, we're still just going to get whatever paint touch we want. And, Dylan Harper, chips in a couple threes. I think the thing that is going to be important for San Antonio's success in the long term is very clearly Portland all series. Like, even going into game 5, they're like, hey, Castle, we're just going to live with you shooting above the break threes. So if Castle's just going to, take 5 threes per game and hit them at a 40% clip, then like shrug. I don't know what you really do for guarding San Antonio in the half court. Because between Dylan Harper, Castle as just these absurd slashers, Fox being this short mid-range floater, like 12 to 18 feet operator, where he shot 63% on short mid-range twos in that series and took damn near 7 per game, which is just nuts volume from De'Aaron Fox. Then you add the shooting from Champagnie and Devin Vassell, who are taking almost 11 threes per 75 combined. Wemby getting another 5 per 75. Like, San Antonio's just offense in the half court. I do think there were some questions answered, and I think the bigger one that is going to make them even more interesting in a potential Thunder Spurs conference finals matchup is if Castle can sustain this in any capacity. Like, if he could keep the volume where it's at, but like, okay, cool, Castle shooting 36% on 5 attempts per, or 6 attempts, actually about 6 attempts per 75. Then, dude, what do you do with San Antonio's offense in the half court? Because defensively, they're just going to be unfair because of Wemby and their speed and athleticism in the half court. They could go double bigs. They have a lot of versatility. But the rim pressure, the shooting that they have, and what Castle, Harper, Fox. I think Castle, Harper, Fox, those 3 and their ability to slash, play make, and what you get from them on the perimeter is I think I would argue is probably their biggest swing factor in terms of, can they win a title? And I do think that either OKC or San Antonio is winning the title. I feel really confident in that. I think they're the 2 best teams, right?
Yeah, it's pretty clear that you're not going to keep these guys out of the paint. And it's like the amount of different ways it happens, right? Like Keldon Johnson coming off the bench and being a baseline cutter or someone who's going to attack closeouts or get on the offensive glass. Wemby, it just looked so easy for Wemby on offense in the pick and roll. Like there was a game where he had 7 dunks and 7 blocks, and he was like the first rookie in 20 years to do that or something like that. I saw the stat. I believe it was from Carson Breber from Nerd Sesh. The game looked easy for Wemby on offense, just rolling into open space, attacking closeouts, using the 3-point shot as a counter, not a go-to. Not really spamming post-ups much, just letting the game come to him, letting the offense flow through guys like Castle, Harper, Fox, who their speed is just unbelievable. Dylan Harper's game 3, I think it was, where he becomes the first rookie in NBA history, or the youngest player in NBA history to drop 25 points in a playoff game, I believe it was. And he did it on like 90% true shooting or something like that. Like it was a crazy, crazy game. And that was like straight superstar flashes. The change of pace, the body control and balance, the timing and patience. Dylan Harper to me is just like superstar in the making. It's just a matter of time. And I think he's already a very impactful rotation playoff player as a rookie. So shout out to him and CMB, both being like legit impactful rotation rookies in these playoffs. Yeah, I don't really think there's a defense in existence that can stop them from getting paint touches. And then, like you said, when the 3-point shots are falling and they've got the defensive stuff, they've got like the Victor Wembanyama effect is just crazy. Like we've talked about multiple times that there aren't really any teams out there besides maybe Denver that can actually pull Wemby out of the paint consistently. And OKC certainly isn't one of them. So that's a really interesting wrinkle to think about, because anytime Wemby's in the paint, you're just not scoring there. It's just not going to happen. And we saw that from Portland. Like there were times in the series where Denny Avdia was able to bulldoze his way downhill. Scoot Henderson had some nice flashes throughout the series. Shout out to Scoot. He was moving really well. He closed out the series rough, but he had a 31-point game in there. And he was getting downhill, doing his thing. The 3-point shot looked good. Also, Scoot's defense looked really good. Drew Holiday did a really good job of picking them apart as a passer at times. Robert Williams III to me was Portland's best player in the series. He was absolutely amazing on the offensive glass as a play finisher, as a connective passer and passing hub. But especially defensively as like the low man rim protector, the guy against Wemby at times. Rob Will was phenomenal in this series, and I think like a team is gonna want to pay him or make a big splash for him in the trade market. To Mani Kamara, the offense kind of came alive, and he looked really, really good in the series as well. Shout out to Tumani. To me, Portland has to address they have a Donovan Clingan problem, and I don't know what to make of this because I'm a big Clingan guy. We just talked about him. He's another guy we brought up in our underrated players episode. We're both big Clingan guys. The rim protection, the monstrous rebounding, and the passing hub stuff all is just really nice, right? Like it's really valuable over an 82 game season. He's one of the most steady presences of he's just a really steady presence. One of the steadiest bigs in the league in terms of just like, you know what you're going to get from him. You can rely on it for 82 games and it's going to help you win a lot of games. In the playoffs, another guy where things change drastically. Now, the fact that you're the slowest big in the league or one of the slowest bigs in the league is going to be attacked every single possession relentlessly on offense. Like, we want to get you in space. We want to get you in the primary action. We want to make you close out to the corner and position the floor a certain way to get you in rotation. And you just aren't fast enough to keep up with us, which then pulls you out of position on rebounds, which then prevents you from protecting the rim. And Clingan in the series just felt like a defensive negative to me. And it felt like anytime he was in the game instead of Rob Will, it was a little bit of a travesty. But that's secondary to the offense being just extremely problematic. And it's this idea of how the heck is he going to score? Like, there actually isn't this is the inverse of the Derek White thing we were talking about, where it's, yeah, he can make a 33% three a couple times a game, but they're never going to guard him. So what is he going to take 30 of them? Like, he'll only shoot 4 or 5 of them.
That's basically what he did.
Right. He'll make
his
1 or 2.
His 3-point volume went from 4.2 attempts per 75 in a regular season and 6.3 rim attempts per 75 in a regular season to 6.6 rim attempts per 75. And he took 8.5 threes per 75 and shot 16% of them. Mind you, this is not including Game 5 tonight. But if we're including Game 5 tonight, he shot 2 for 7 from 3 in Game 5 tonight.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what the defense wants you to shoot, right? Like, if you're Donovan Clingan, you're catching the ball and you're like, well, I've worked on this shot. This is what, like, they're giving it to me. I'm going to take it. And it's like, anytime he takes that shot, the defense is clapping. Like that's the shot they want. It's not a real floor spacer. Not many bigs in the league are real floor spacers. Even Jokic in this Minnesota series hasn't been an actual floor spacer. Like when I think of floor spacing bigs, I think of Cat. I think of Porzingis. How many others are there? Like Brooke Lopez, I think could probably Miles Turner, probably at least at times. Both these guys. Brooke Lopez actually. Chet is like in between. Wemby's definitely one. Chet's in between because he's got the slower release, so teams are more comfortable helping and recovering on him as opposed to like hugging him on the perimeter. Like I would say the only two who get hugged on the perimeter are Cat and Porzingis. Like those guys you do not want getting open. And so with Klingon, it's like he falls into the scope of he'll take 7 threes, like you mentioned, or 8 threes, but that's what the defense wants him taking. And then you get him in pick and roll situations, and he's physically just incapable of scoring on rolls. He does not have the athletic profile for it and never will. He cannot score on rolls. He's not quick enough to roll into open space. He's not a vertical finishing threat. He's not like, he just doesn't have the balance or coordination to catch the ball on the move and make those decisions. And so it's like when Klingon's out there, he's either on the perimeter, not spacing the floor, screening and popping because he can't roll, or he's just hanging out in the dunker where if you neutralize him on the glass, he's just a negative. And I love Klingon's game, man, like as a passing hub, as a rim protector, but it's like if a team can get into a play, and maybe San Antonio as a contender is like they can expose these things better than other teams, but like I don't know where Klingon would get his game off. And it's like in a playoff series where your offense can be directly attacked and your defense can be directly attacked to the point where you're just a bleeding value on both sides of the ball, that's a problem. And if Portland's moving forward with Donovan Klingon as their franchise center, and then also Denny Avdia, who's got his flaws as an offensive creator, turning the ball over, sometimes relying on the free throw line when he's not able to get downhill. Scoot Henderson's got his flaws, hasn't been the slasher he was expected to be coming out, although some of the other stuff has panned out. You're building your core around these very flawed players. And it's like, where do you go from here? Like even Shaedon Sharpe, he's a skilled scorer who can't shoot threes.
Played 6 minutes tonight.
Right, and he's one of the worst defenders in the league. I don't know if you saw the clip going around Twitter where Thiago Splitter called out San Antonio's play. He predicted the play that San Antonio was going to run. He called it out. He told everyone exactly where to be. And Shaedon Sharpe just like face guarded his man in the corner and let Wemby like cut right around him off a screen. And it was a wide open dunk. And Shaedon Sharpe immediately was like, raised the finger like, oh, my bad. And it was like, dude, this is bad. That's really bad. Your coach told you where to be and you weren't there in real time. And it's that type of stuff, like all these flawed players. So like I like what Portland has done. Like impressive season, man. Their transition offense was awesome in this series still. Like they really got out and ran. Like you said, their half court defense is awesome. Like especially when Drew was playing, like Drew Holiday looked awesome in this series. Tumana Kamara. When Klingon's at the rim, a presence, but Robert Williams III, monstrous defender. All these lengthy athletes like Chris Murray, very good defender. Jeremy Grant, good weak side rim protector. But yeah, every single player on the roster has like some sort of fatal flaw. And I just don't know, like even with Damian Lillard back, to me, this roster, like even if Damian Lillard's in prime form, that's a 50-win team, but it's a team that's built to like get just blitzed by an actual contender in the playoffs. And yeah, I think there's going to have to be some major roster changes in Portland.
Well, how are they going to change the roster? They're not going to have anybody in the front office to make decisions because they're going to get charged. I mean, they're going to get paid $5 an hour. They're working below minimum wage in Portland. They're not going to have a director of player personnel because his budget money went to Chauncey Billups' bail.
That's crazy. If you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're on Spotify,
please,
or Apple,
we're 2.5 hours in. Reward us.
Reward us 5-star rating. If you're 2.5 hours in, you need to be rewarded. Actually, comment.
You know what? You're right.
Comment. You know what? We're gonna put these guys to the test. Comment reward if you made it to this point. I want to see if we get a single comment that says reward, or if we're just out here yet. Like I feel like this is just a conversation off air at this point. Like no, we're just talking. We're just two dudes talking at this point. 5-star rating, very much appreciated. Check us out on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_DAVI. He's on Instagram at Sean_Davis23. I keep backing so far away from the mic, dude. Like I don't know what's going on. It's too late. I'm on Instagram Twitter, all that good stuff at Tyler Britton _ Hoop Venue on all platforms for my NBA content. That's pretty much it. I don't know. We'll probably be back in like 6 months with episode number 83.
We're back this weekend. We're back later on. We're back in a couple days.
We're back this. We'll be more consistent.
I'm back from out of town
with these episodes. We really appreciate you guys listening. Like I said, comment reward. We're gonna get no comments as a reward, but we'll catch you guys next time in episode number 83.